It's Friday. It's just on 11 o'clock, and this is I'm so sorry about this. The lack of fingers. We do need to work on this. It doesn't feel right when we just crash on air.
I'm doing the whole Ray Gelato
Is
rhythm
that what
here.
it is? Oh, I see. I think you ought to know about men's radio.
Let's give it up. Let's give it up. We're losing this desperately. Hello, everybody. Men's Radio right here, coming at you live, coming at you. Who's going to be the first to show? Who is going to be the first to show in the 11 a.m. handicap stakes here at Kempton Park? Good afternoon, everybody.
Apparently nobody. How very disappointing.
That's fascinating.
Ooh. Don't like us today. Anyway, this is the Daily Show. Oh, it's Eve Phantom. There we go.
Crazy name, crazy guy. And Eve Phantom there, the undisputed champion of the listeners, coming in a very clear first place there. That's a gold medal for Eve Phantom of I don't know where she lives. Crazy name, crazy girl. We're coming out bred by Her Majesty the Queen's trainer. Well done to Eve Phantom in the sheepskin noseband and the blinkers. Paul Carriage now making a very, very valiant effort on the rails, being chased forwardly by Linda Dave. Linda Dave coming under some pressure there from Veronica Curran, who's bred in the Edinburgh stables. Emma Webb coming in there as well. There we go.
I can't help but wonder why it is that more people don't speak like that anymore.
Do you know what's really interesting, young Philip? Young Philip. I feel better now you're 35. I feel you're catching me up. Obviously, if I never have another birthday for the next 800 years, it'll be all right. Now, I'll tell you why. When you listen to...
You know what your problem was? You should have been born on leap year.
That would be it. Unfortunately, and just coming in the past was the favourite Michael Verby, trained out in the southern Spain by trainer and ridden by Stacey Verby, and the colours of Malcolm and Anita Verby there. Disappointing. Looks like they could have been pulled up. Luke Newman. Good morning, gents. Looking forward to seeing you at 1 p.m. We'll be the judge of that. Thank you, Luke. Just going into the unsettling enclosure now is Andrea Lucas, being rubbed down by her trainer. You could tell what my childhood was like. My father was a gambling lunatic. My whole childhood was horse racing, which is why I don't go near it. What I was going to say is,
listeners, I'm slightly surprised though for someone who ended up in broadcasting that you didn't think of maybe trying to pursue some sort of commentary career as well.
I have no interest. You see, I have no interest in sport. None.
I can't pretend I do either, but
I like
that you've got to have an ability to do it.
I like Formula One. It's odd, I do. I like Formula One a lot, but I have no interest really. If I'm out at if I'm out at Souters or something, well, it all gets up and running. If I was out at Souters and the football was on a Saturday afternoon, I'll sit there with the guys and the gang, and I'll watch it casually. But I'm not
check you out. I'll sit there with the guys.
Well, there's seats there, and there's a TV screen, and so I can sit with the guys. And you'd be welcome to join.
Thanks.
It's Shabbat. Oh, of course, it's Shabbat. You can't. No, I forgot. You'd have to walk to Mount. You'd have to walk all the way to Mayfair.
I know, it'd be very tricky. Look, I have to say, actually, that in all seriousness, just that one point that has kind of made me think that I do once in a while. I'm wondering whether or not you or anyone else has ever experienced this as well, where you just sometimes get days where you think, am I getting it right? Have I taken the right path in life? Am I doing what I'm supposed to do?
I had this conversation yesterday. That's so weird. I want to answer something first, and then I really want to discuss that, Phil. That is a fascinating point. You were talking about why don't people talk like that? Why don't they talk really nicely anymore with received pronunciation? And people think, oh, that was the 30s and 40s. No. If you look, I love watching documentaries. I watch very little TV now, mostly documentaries. And if you look at anything from even the early 80s, certainly in the 70s, all the interviewers talk like that, and they're very, very clipped, and it's surprising. And I'm talking about even ITV and stuff like that. And you listen to it. So, what do you think of the current government, Mrs. Moggins? Well, I think that they all talk like that. And then Janet Office Cleaner came along with her youth thing and buggered everything up.
It's strange, actually, because I was having this sort of conversation. I was having this sort of conversation on another program I work on the other day, and I was saying how it wasn't Simon. I didn't make this point, actually, to be fair. It was another broadcaster made the point of saying that just because we have an obsession with regional accents, which, by the way, there is nothing wrong
they're nice.
at all with
they're
regional
nice,
accents,
unless they're Birmingham,
doesn't mean that you don't have to speak properly. So in other words, you can't tell me that people from certain parts of the country or wherever they are from were forever dropping T's or dropping H's forever. Don't get me wrong, it absolutely is a part of some accents. I don't deny that, but not all of them.
It's rubbish. It's lazy. It's lazy.
And not to mention the way that the language is used. So never mind the accent.
They're very lazy.
There's just deterioration coming from all sides. When you get people who forever say things like and basically and so every other word.
Basically, right, and Phil, basically, I'm not being funny, right? But at the end of the day, right, what I mean, Jesus, are you saying anything or are you just making noise?
That's the problem.
Is there anything in the sentence there that I need to listen to? Can I go away, make a fresh coffee, come back, then maybe you've made the point?
I might point out as well, actually, that some people will be forgiven for saying, why is it that you're talking about this on a radio station that's supposed to be about mental health and well-being?
Because it drives me mad.
I was going to say, but in all seriousness, but I would say, in all seriousness, I know a lot of people that it annoys, and it's something that's beyond control. Now, I've always said, for as long as I can remember, what's the point of getting annoyed by something you can't control? But what frustrates me is it's something collectively everyone can control, but no one cares. And if they do care, they're not in position to do anything about it. So in other words, those who we hear on our radios, those who we see on our television screens, wherever they may be, they're the ones who could do something who just don't care about it. And that's what's frustrating.
They won't. I remember, and then I really want to get on to, this is interesting. Veronica Curran up in Edinburgh, who's such a loyal listener. Hi, Veronica. If I come to Edinburgh, we are having drinks or coffee or something like that if I ever come back to Edinburgh. My son had, I'm liking your style. You see, that's why you get the big bucks. My son had severe verbal dyspraxia and now corrects me due to speech and language.
Wow.
You've had a pretty rough life, Veronica, if I may say. I'm just reading between the lines because you've never said, but every now and then, especially with the Ollie Mammon show, the ABC of CBD, which you're very vocal on, it's really interesting. And I think reading between the lines, what's funny?
What you're very vocal on. We love it. We enjoy it.
It's great. Of course it is. I'm being complimentary. That when she comes on, there's loads of comments which we love. I've just had an idea, by the way. Michael Verby who's still in Spain. Have you retired, Michael? Is this the thing? Is this why you've been out with your sister Stacey for weeks and weeks and weeks in Spain? I can't get over it. Can't bear the dropping of G. Swimming, right? Queuing, right? And taking out the letter T. The letter T apparently has been banned. Oh, and then Veronica says experience, darling. Yeah, you put it down, experience. Yeah. The one phrase I don't agree, that which doesn't kill you makes you strong, which was Friedrich Nietzsche. No, that which doesn't kill you makes you exhausted. I don't think it makes you strong. Now.
But hang on a second.
I've had an idea.
I know you don't like that expression, but I do agree with it. I do sort of agree. No, but I'd say that it's okay. Experiences that we all go through ultimately make us bring out an inner strength that perhaps we didn't know we had.
Does it?
Well, you're still here, aren't you?
I am here, worse than ever. I am totally here.
No, but I beg it takes strength to get through. Some of the things that you've been through, sorry, I'm not trying to ignore Paul, but some of the things that you have been through in your lifetime, I think takes enormous strength to get through it. And you are still here and you have got through it. And you might not realize it, but actually a lot of what you've been through will inspire others to do the same.
Well, that's very kind. I never, we can talk about it at length one day. I'm not going to do it now, but I never think of that. It's very kind. And other people have said that sort of thing. And I go, well, I didn't really think I had a choice. So it wasn't like I was choosing to be brave or choosing this. I had a choice of lying.
Yeah, but I hate to tell you that there is a choice. No, I hate to say there is a choice, and some people unfortunately take the ultimate choice, which is horrendous. And that's my point.
True. That is true. And I probably would have considered that had it been for not having twins aged 5 years old. So I would have considered that only because, not because I was depressed, because I'd had enough. I just thought, well, I've had enough now. That's it. But glad I didn't. Anyway, Paul Claridge, I'm on my way to, you see, this is what happens. We make stars of these people, Phil. 1 minute he's up a ladder being beaten up by Eastern European drug gangs in East Croydon. Suddenly he's relaxing. This is what happens. We build them up and then they leave us. I'm on my way to Downham as I'm looking after 3 cats while my friends are away. God, Paul, living the dream, mate. No ladders involved.
I don't think there's anything wrong with looking after cats.
Oh, Christ, they're cats. Who cares? Paul Claridge, if double negatives were admissible as evidence, the crime clear-up rate would soar. I ain't done nothing on it, officer. I ain't done nothing, mate. God's sake. What is funny, I listen to a lot of old radio detective plays, which I have a penchant for. So if you listen to stuff even in the 60s, actually up to the early 70s, which for me is like yesterday, of course it isn't. And if you listen to the way the script has been written, you know, the policemen are rather like that. All right, darling, I'll be back soon. I've got to investigate this crime. Hurry back, do be careful. It's all that, right? All very cut class. And then every criminal is either dodgy and foreign, or, you know, foreign equals dodgy, or it's clearly an actor who speaks beautifully in real life, but is putting on a really bad sort of semi-Cockney tough accent. It's really interesting. It's very of the time. Now, you could
imagine it now, couldn't you? You could say, it could be something along the lines of, would one mind terribly if I was to say something along this? Yeah.
They do that because there's always the village policeman or the local policeman. So the suave, sophisticated senior policeman investigates. And they go, what have you found out, Johnson? Well, sir, I have observed that the door was left open. You know, it's like, Jesus, it's so creaky. But that's why I like it. I like it because it's a different age and it's really creaky. And I'm listening to Nio Marsh at the moment, the original stuff written, some of it written in 1931. Just the mores of the times was so different. And then you think 1931, you had no idea what was coming. By 1938, 39, God almighty, grab every moment. Now, you raised a very interesting point. Oh, Parker in Thunderbirds. Now, here's some good news, everybody. Parker in Thunderbirds, yes, me lady, is voiced by the wonderful man who I occasionally I'm invited to have breakfast with, Mr. David Graham. David Graham is well into his 90s. Hilarious, diabolically rude, obscene conversation, and makes me roar with laughter. He was he was just fantastic. He did the voice of Brains and Parker, his grandpa Pig. So he's still working in his 90s. He's about 93 now, something like that. He was taken horribly ill. And Larry Viner, who's my mate, was visiting him in Royal Free Hospital, where I think David was. And Larry was like calling me, or we were speaking like, it's that bad. It's really bad. The guy's recovered. He's home. I think he's made of Teflon. Isn't that fantastic? So that's Parker in Thunderbirds and Grandpa Pig, the great voice actor David Graham, who, interestingly, I was listening to a play from 1956. And there he was playing a villain. It was really good. You raised a very, very fascinating point, which I now want to revisit. Have we chosen the right path? Why were you thinking that?
Well, okay. So the main reason I said that is because when we were at the top of the program, you started doing your commentary, and I said
even Phantom won the race.
Indeed.
I got a quick question before we do that. I'm sorry to digress again. Do you think there should be a prize for whoever comes on first? That would be brilliant.
It's your budget. You do what you want. I think you've just dug yourself a hole quickly.
When I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. Okay, go.
No, but it was just as you were doing your commentary thing at the top of the program. And I thought to myself that you would have been clearly, apart from obviously sort of superb broadcasting that you do already, but that there's no doubt in my mind that you would have had such a natural ability to do commentary like that. And just for the record, if anyone thinks that they can do it, it is not easy at all. It's hardly easy to speak with pace and think about what you're saying next, never mind when you're trying to come up with 100 words a minute. And I just thought to myself then, how often do I wonder whether or not I've made the right choices in life? And even though I'm a great believer in not having regrets, I'd say there's pretty much one major regret I have, and I think there's possibly two, which is a bit silly. They're probably trivial, and many people would say, well, hang on, you can just correct them now, so why do you regret it? The first one being is that I gave up learning the piano, because I think the right age to do it is as a child, because then it becomes natural.
I'm with you on that. But it's not too late.
It's absolutely not too late.
You can start to learn now.
No,
the
I know.
Best time clearly is when you're a little kid.
Exactly. That's the problem. So that's the only thing that bothers me. So it's most certainly not too late. I absolutely could do it if I really put my mind to it. But it's more about whether or not I could cope with learning it in the same way that I could have done if I was just daring enough to do it as a child. And the answer is I can't.
No, you can't. So but you can learn it intellectually, obviously physically, you can learn it. You won't learn it because kids absorb stuff like blotting paper. It's just a different way of learning. So we put up as adults too many barriers. Oh, this is going to be difficult. And the kids don't. They just learn it,
So that's the first one. And then the other one is I would have quite liked to have learned at least one other language fluently. And again, something that's very difficult in later life. But make no mistake.
But that hasn't held you back. What language?
No.
I mean, you always joke and speak English and rubbish, but
but to be fair, neither. Yeah, to be fair, neither hold me back. If those are my only regrets in life, I'd say I'm very, very lucky. But it's more about I've let myself down for not doing something about it. But in more of a serious point, the way what I was trying to get at
65, you're 35. You're just 35, so you've got like
I know that. No, I get that. But on a more serious sort of level, when it comes to career or what have you, I absolutely love the career I have. Make no mistake.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to change the career, I don't think. But what I would want to do is look back and think very carefully, did I take the right path along that career thus far? Where I'm at now,
don't look back in
could I have been any further forward if I would have done something differently? And it's that plagues me.
Some things you can't force. They will or they won't happen. And I've always found the more I've tried, when you really desperately want something, it doesn't always plop in your lap. And then sometimes when I'm ambivalent, I don't really mind, and suddenly it's like, oh, would you fancy that? I'm going through one of those odd phases in my life at the moment where I'm getting offers to do this, that, and the other, completely out of the blue, which is very flattering and very nice. And I'm saying yes to.
Oh my God, you're going to be on Strictly, aren't you?
Oh God, no. No, I don't want to be like that. First of all, no one's ever heard of me. And secondly, I don't want to just be the butt of the jokes and look like a complete arse. I can do that on my own. Don't need to go on national television. Although I'd get to meet Claudia. That would be the only plus. That would be the only plus that I'm interested in.
Keep dancing.
Yeah, I have to say, I think the show is so much better. I know he's dead, so he couldn't be in it, but it's so much better since Bruce Forsyth left. I think it vastly improved. I'm honest. I had to shuttle. No, I mean it. I thought he was. I thought he should have retired. I know everybody seemed to love him, national treasure and all of that, but I just thought it slowed it down. It wasn't even shoehorned in. It was smashed in with a hammer and a mallet, and the whole pace just went off. I think the two presenters, the two women, do a brilliant job. Ramsey Y. Musalam. Two very good quotes. Then I'm going to come back to your interesting point. Morning, chaps and chapesses. What doesn't kill you mutates and tries again.
Ramsey, where have you been hiding? You haven't been around for a week or so.
He's busy. He works. Yes, he
Oh,
has a
yes, of course,
he's
you
a
got your new
grown up. He has a
job.
proper job.
Yes, yes,
And
yes,
then
yes.
Ramsey said, by the way, Tony Bennett has just announced his retirement at 95. What a slacker.
Gordon
What a
Bennett.
slacker. How dare he? I left my heart. Anyone remember where I can't remember where I left it. That's a gag there. Now, it's very difficult. You know, if your life is full of regrets, there's nothing you can do about it. Well, Phil is lucky because those are the two biggest regrets he's got in his life.
No,
Jesus,
that's why I say I
both of those
realize
are
I am
completely solvable.
no, I know
They're
I'm
fantastically
incredibly
lucky. I
lucky.
can't do anything about the regrets I have. Nothing at all. And they still haunt me, and there's no point in them haunting me because I can't undo them. I
No,
can't.
I
It's
promise you,
impossible.
I am well aware that if those are my biggest regrets, then I am incredibly lucky.
It's fantastically lucky because I can't go back in the past and undo stupid mistakes. And you can, this afternoon at 2:30, book up piano lessons or go to, you know, if you want to start doing a language, one of the twins did this. He did it. His two best mates are Russian. So he's learning Russian. Why do something simple? So he's learning Russian. He also learned Italian, but he's learning Russian, which is about as tough as you can get. And he can have conversations now in Russian with his mates.
Wow.
Yeah, he's 6'3", and they make him look small. They were all at school together. I know, they're just giants, these guys, and they are delightful. And you'd never know that they don't go, hello, Rusky, how are you? They don't do that.
Oh, no kidding.
Until they start talking Russian. And then they become completely Russian. Now, have I a rival for Claudia's affections? Michael, mate, you're not even in the chance with her fringe. I'm getting the whole package. All right? You haven't got a chance, mate. I'm telling you that now. Might as well just stay in Spain. Find a nice senorita. Where was I? Oh,
Is that a bar or something?
The Senorita Bar. Yes, it's for Andrew Lucas. I can speak a bit of Russian because I learnt it. Hello-ski, Andy. How-ski are you ski? See, I speak fluent Russian. Anyway, he learned on a system called... Yeah, it's very good. This is for you, Philip. I was doing this preamble. Duolingo. You can get it as an app. It's really good. Costs about tuppence, if that... No. Don't immediately dismiss me.
No, excuse me. I'm not dismissing it. I have heard of... No.
Duolingo. It's really
you'll find
good.
I said, oh, because I have heard of it.
Duolingo... It really helps with the vocabulary because the thing when you're at school they teach you all the grammar and everything in French, which is a pain in the ass. All you want to do is land in the country and be able to ask for a coffee or whatever. So you just want the verbal skills. You don't need you don't need the grammatical skills if you just want to speak it, right? With me? So you just need the vocabulary. And Duolingo,
no, I know. Make no mistake. I know I need to do something about it. If I'm really that fussed by it, I need to do something about it. It's just as simple as that.
Stunned. I would swap in a heartbeat if that was only my regret. I would be so happy. I'd be able to sleep at night.
Yeah, I realize I am very lucky. I don't think I have realistically much to fret over, which is an incredibly lucky thing to say.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I mean it. And it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. You know, most of the stuff that people think I might regret, I don't regret. You know, it was fun, whatever. I have two major regrets, and there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. One was an education decision, and one was a business decision. And stupid mistakes. Now, Veronica Curran up in Edinburgh says Claudia Winkleman is supporting CBD use. A wee idea guest. If I could get her on the show, that's never going to happen. I missed my Thursday 6 p.m. Don't worry, Veronica, because Ollie Mammon's taking a month break. He wanted to travel. So we've got the terrific Cuddy Cudsworth.
He wants to travel. Good Lord.
He's gone away. He wanted a break for a month and take a holiday and everything because he's been working in the laboratory. So don't worry. He'll be back beginning of September, Veronica. Graham said, "Oh, look at this. Are you going to read this? This is good." No, you, not me, you fool. Oh, God, he's gone. Graham Simpson. Hi, Graham. Morning from the Shetland Islands.
Now, you see, I would have read it had I not have pressed the wrong button, which is very silly of
You got
me.
one job. Phil, you got one job to do, mate.
I know.
You got one job. Here you go. You read it now.
Morning from the Shetland Islands. Looking after the planes and helicopters on the only runway in the UK split by an A road. Pardon?
Good God.
Good Lord. Moved here from London 7 years ago. My only regret is not doing it 20 years ago. Have a good one. Thank you, Graham.
Graham, if you want to phone, Phil and I would love to discuss that, because the Shetland Islands, I don't even know where they are. They're north of Hampstead or south of Hampstead, so I'm immediately lost. Many people think, I just got to get out and go to the middle of nowhere, and they'd love it. I would be within a week screaming and banging my head against the wall. What is it about? We want to know. Could you phone, Graham? 0203, what is it? 0203 290 4411. 0203 290 4411. Give us a call. I'd love to know that, because loads of people, I bet, are there thinking, I've got to get out. I can't stand this. I want to go somewhere remote. I'd love to know the pluses. Cuddy wasn't on last night. I shall speak to my production team and give them a right mouthful, because we not only emailed, we had confirmations on that. So that's a bit of a bugger. All right. Okay. Thanks, Veronica. There we are. Interesting. Because I think during this pandemic, when our lives just went south, I think many people thought, I just want to be in the middle of nowhere, just live my own life. And it in some ways feels very attractive to me, because I have become way more reclusive. No two ways about it. Definitely. People are not my big thing at the moment. Crowds. Yeah.
Mind you, I will say one thing, that I am quite pleased to start doing things that I used to do.
Yeah, totally.
For example, actually, here's a drama and a half here. So the other day, as I think I told you, I was off to the theatre for the first time.
Oh, yeah. How was it? What did you go to see? I've never heard of. What did you go to see?
I went to go and see a production called Constellations, which is on at the Vaudeville Theatre on the Strand. And in a nutshell, it's a little bit like Sliding Doors. Did you ever watch that film?
Yeah,
it's kind of the kind of what if scenario. So, in other words, if
that's
something
today. That's suddenly a theme, isn't it? Everything we've been talking about.
And maybe that's where I came from. Maybe subconsciously, I wonder if that's where it came from. How interesting! But it was a sort of what if scenario where it was a double header play, where you've got.
So it wasn't one actor who'd grown another head.
No, I can confirm it wasn't.
Okay.
I did wonder whether or not that was going to be how it works, because that could have been quite interesting. I say, what are you saying to me? I have no idea. What are you talking about? Well, don't look at me. Anyway, right. But this, and you can imagine it now. But it wasn't that. It was acted very well, and male role, female role.
Uh-huh.
And it was about how the two of them met and what would have happened if they have approached each other in a different attitude, almost like if they had different personalities, is the best way of putting it. No set around it, really, just sort of lighting and the two of them. So it was quite a serious. It was quite a full-on play, and it was just weird. Do you know what was the weirdest thing about it? Actually,
the ice cream at the interval.
Being surrounded. No, there was no interval. Being surrounded by the sound of applause. Does that sound really daft? But
no,
actually,
why did it freak you out?
No, it didn't freak me out. It was just weird, because I realized I haven't heard live applause
ever in your life
for over a year and a half.
Oh,
isn't that really strange? But sort of being in that environment where you've actually got people all around you clapping, and the sound of clapping obviously resonates quite loud. It's obviously the reason why people do it. But it was just bizarre, but enjoyable.
You know what? I often wonder, how did clapping your hands in applause equate to begin? And who was the first person to go? Because maybe they could have gone, you could have had 2,000 people at the Palladium, 3,000 people at the end of a show going, oh, they love it. Listen to that clicking. So I often thought, why did applause? Somebody must have been the first person to, clap. And they said, you know what are you doing? I'm going to call it clapping. Why? Because I want to show my approval. Or you could just go like this. I mean, you could do anything, didn't you? I often think, who the hell? Like, I think, who the hell got the idea? I know. You see that huge animal over there? I'm gonna get its milk and then I'm gonna drink it. What kind of pervert are you? That's what I think.
I've often wondered that. And who the hell looks at something that came out of a chicken's backside and thought, "Oh, yummy breakfast"? Really?
Hello. Hey, it's just pooped something oval. I'm going to eat that. I'd love to phone, says Graham Simpson in the Shetland Islands, but it's an active airport.
Oh.
Clear to land. This is heavy 734, 3,000 meters. Clear to land. Runway 203. I'd love to phone, but it's an active airport, and I'd hate for something with wings to bump into something without wings. The fear they all end up with an angel. Look, they can eat desserts. Oh, I see. With an angel, not angel delight. Angel wings. Another day. When I'm not on duty, I'd be happy to share my island life. I would love to hear this, Graham. It's quite a story that involves several strokes and the HMV dog Nipper. Oh my God, you have whetted our appetites, Graham Simpson. You clever fellow.
Sorry, his actual master's voice, Nipper. Really?
This is great.
Wow.
Have we got the best viewers, listeners in the world? Because not just that, he doesn't just say, "Oh yeah, I'll try and phone you, but I'm a bit busy." He presents it as a short story and does a teaser. Fantastic. What other stations get that? No one. Brilliant.
Oh, quite.
Great. We'd love that. We'd love that. That would be smashing.
Oh, anyway, so by the way, back to the theatre problems. So I got the bug, and I thought, well, actually, this is all right. This was on Wednesday. I got the bug, didn't I? So not COVID. I got the theatre. I got the theatre bug. Yeah, well, I wouldn't know if I did, would I? It's only 2 days since I went to the theatre.
One of our mutual chums has just tested positive, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah. Someone who you were barbecuing with. Don't say the name.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look.
He feels okay, but he tested positive. So he's been very, very good, this particular person, and completely self-isolating. He's being absolutely stringent, even though he feels okay.
Well, he's got to have a bit of positivity in his life. Yeah. Now, the problem I have is that I got the bug. I thought to myself, I really want to go back to the theatre again soon. Okay. And there's a production I really want to see.
Which is?
Anything Goes. It brought it back. Brought it back at the Barbican. Yeah, so I really want to see it. And it's got the most superb cast. Stars Robert Lindsay, who can do no wrong.
Yeah, he's great.
And Felicity Kendall, who is just incredible.
We love her. Anybody else?
And Gary Wilmot.
And my mate Gary.
So there you go. So
is Claudia Winkleman in it just for me?
No, Claudia's not in it. But the point is that I thought to myself, well, I really want to go and see this, and I know what's going to happen. I'm going to keep telling myself I must go and see it. No, I must go and see it, and I won't get around to it. So yesterday morning, I thought I'm going to get all my work done, and I'm going to go and see it.
Right. So you finished the milk round early,
and I booked the tickets at about 8 o'clock yesterday morning.
Ooh.
And I didn't stinge because I thought I believe in doing something properly or don't bother. And booked tickets that were sort of a reasonable seat associated with a reasonable cost.
You normally book in the street, don't you? You say, could you leave the stage door open? I'll just listen out to the show because it saves
sneak in. Don't mind me. It's fine. I'll enter stage left. Anyway. I got to the theatre after finishing my work in a reasonably speedy time, if I say so myself. I had to rush through one or two things. Did it properly, but I had to rush through all the same.
Sorry, I'm thinking of a very silly joke.
And when I got there, there was a sign outside the theatre. Mm-hmm. We regret to inform you that due to COVID situation, this afternoon's matinee has been cancelled.
No.
I was mortified. Very, very upset.
What happens with your ticket money?
Well, to be fair, I've already got an email. This is another story in itself. I've already got an email from the website I booked it through offering me a voucher that will expire within a year to the full value of the amount I paid. And when I'm now trying to find a phone number to tell said website they can stick their voucher where the sun don't shine, I ordered it the same day. I want my money back immediately. Amazing. There's no phone number. So we'll work on that and get back to you in due
By
course.
the way, I know loads of you listening are lawyers. What is the deal with the policy? I bought something for a friend. It didn't fit. I went back. I wanted the money back. And they said, no, we can exchange it for goods or give you a credit note for goods in this store. But I said, well, I just want my money back. The thing hasn't been worn, doesn't fit, it's the wrong size. I made a mistake. I was trying to do something nice and I screwed up. I said, I just want the money back. It was not cheap. And they said, oh no, you can't do it. So blazing row ensued in the shop, but they wouldn't budge. What is the legal situation? I thought they were now you had to get your money back. And this whole will give you a voucher.
No, I think that's a cop-out because I'm fairly sure, without knowing the ins and outs of consumer law, I wished I did, but without knowing the ins and outs of it, I would have thought that if someone is capable of offering you an exchange, it doesn't mean they can't take the item back. So therefore, if that's the case, they can take the item back happily to resell it. They are just point blank refusing to give you your money back, which is not okay.
That's what I thought. It's not like the goods are going to be thrown away or it's a half-eaten sandwich.
If they turn around and say, we're sorry, we cannot offer a refund on this product, or an exchange, I should say, offer a refund or exchange on this product, then I think that's very different. But to actually say we'll exchange it for something else, what they're basically saying is, no, we'll keep your money. So you can now choose. You can choose
exactly what they're saying.
They'll say you can choose the second best thing that you would have got otherwise.
And I said, well, there's nothing else here I want, which there wasn't. It was one thing that I knew would suit the person I bought this item for, and there was nothing else. Chrissy Richards, God, how hot is this in Spain? Just joined you. 44 today. I thought you were a bit older. Oh,
I was going to say, happy birthday, Chrissy.
Happy birthday, Chrissy. 44, get you. You young flippity gibbet. 44 degrees. God almighty.
And if you don't mind me saying, you are immeasurably brave. 44 degrees and you're eating trout. Come on. Really?
She hasn't caught it yet. Don't worry. No, she'll pop down to the bottom of one of the fields that she works in and she'll do that.
Just throw hang on, into the canal.
Veronica Cohen saying, if they display notifications explaining their policy, well, it's probably hidden, in a changing room or in a toilet or something. Richard
But I would suggest, Veronica, even then to some degree, I don't think that completely covers the shops. They might try and use it as a reason to not give you your money back. But ultimately, consumer law is consumer law. And no one's above it. It's a little bit like turning around and saying, well, we all know that, for want of a better term, thou shalt not kill, and then carry around a sign saying, I'm exempt from killing somebody. They
would do that. I bet.
But it's basically the shop making up their own rules. And I'm not completely convinced that is something that is acceptable or okay.
You're right. Luke Newman, sad news about the fantastic Unistubs. I think everybody of a certain age, certainly my age, was in love with Unistubs at one point in their life. Fabulous actress.
She just seemed like such a nice person.
She was a very nice person. Everybody who worked with her said she was absolutely adorable. She was, and I wrote yesterday, and Phil you won't be able to quite relate. But when someone's been with you, I never met her, to be clear. But when someone's been a part of your life, in other words, always been around since you were born and they're gone, a little bit of you goes along. A little bit of you kind of goes with it. Jules Silverman, if you have enough,
you say that, of course I can relate to that.
Hang on a minute. Jules Silverman, you're disrupting the class. Could you just go and take your seat at your desk, please? See me afterwards. And I hope you've got a note why you were late. Second time this week. Richard Todd, morning chaps. Do I have time for my rant? Of course you do. Come on, Dickie Todd, let's bring it on. No idea what it is, but
and Chrissy Richards says, yes, Phil. And I must ask, if you were here in 44 degrees, what would you wear
A
because I
slightly
know
lighter cravat.
I know you like to be covered up. I'm not insulting you. No, Chrissy, I don't think you're insulting me at all. I'd say that is a very appropriate question to ask. It's not completely unheard of for me to be in early 40s degrees heat and still wear long sleeves. I probably wouldn't wear a jacket. I'd probably wear a sort of very light shirt or something like that. But the reason why I cover up is because I burn very easily, so I have to. Bit annoying, really. But
burn, baby, burn, disco inferno, burn, baby, burn that mother down. Leslie Demisa, the bionic woman, as we call her now. Please, Leslie, don't have any more accidents. This is all getting too stressful having you as a friend. Ex Mrs. Help here. If goods, would you like to read this out?
Well, I would love to read it out. So
go ahead. Then we'll get on to the rant from Richard Todd.
Right, let's have a look and see. Leslie Demisa, or lovely Demisa, says...
Lovely bionic Demisa.
And she says, ex-Miss Help one here.
Yeah.
If goods are not of merchantable quality or do not serve the purpose for which they were intended, the purchaser is entitled to a full refund or exchange of goods. If they don't fit, and there was opportunity to try it on, it will depend on the shop's policy.
Okay, well, then they were in their rights, and I didn't get away with it.
I think she means ex-Miss Helpline here. There you go.
Yes, she was capital Helpline. Isn't it good to know? Leslie. All the hits.
Oh, wasn't it shocking when radio stations used to do that? They just sort of used to repeat and again and again and again and again, just thinking it was somehow cool.
I like that jingle. That was one of my favourite jingles because they'd use it as a segue. And it just went all the hits. I actually rather liked it. Right. Helpline. Yeah, we know you were on the helpline. Leslie Demisa has helped millions of people. Chrissy Richards, thank you, Phil. Solved that one. I only wear vests and shorts. You're a sex goddess. You're the
good lord.
You're the Bo Derek of the middle of nowhere in Spain, Chrissy. Let's face it. Bo Derek, not now. Bo Derek as she was when she was in 10. Although I never found her desperately attractive, to be honest. Right. Do you want to read out Richard Todd's rant? Because I haven't got the full thing on my screen.
Richard Todd says, okay, let's get this off my chest. You're wearing Vicks or something. Oh, I see.
Okay. It's got Vicks Silex.
Just a quick shout out to our not so wonderful boys in blue. Now, hang on. You're not going to start landing us in hot water here, are we? On Wednesday afternoon, not long after the show ended, there was a knock on the door.
Hang on, let's act this out. Do that sentence again.
On Wednesday afternoon, not long after the show ended, there was a knock on the door. A young police officer asked to talk to me. My wife has recently, back in February, taken on a voluntary role supporting all kinds of local charities under the guise of the local town quote partnership. She will assist any charity with events, promotion, etc., to try to get it out to the widest audience. The previous chair of the role had been in the position for 19 years. She decided to step down. She was almost 80.
Bless her.
Late last year, my wife and one other applicant applied. The other applicant mysteriously withdrew their application about a week before closing. Okay. Therefore, my wife got the role by default.
Okay.
Turns out the other applicant withdrew as he was advised by friends he would be unsuitable for the role due to health reasons. Anyway, since taking over, my wife has been subject to intimidation and harassment by the other applicant.
What's the matter with these people?
By the other applicant, though, along with some of his so-called supporters. She's been slandered in public council meetings by someone that she doesn't even know and has never had any dealings whatsoever with the partnership. And therefore, my wife had no choice than to report these matters to the local police. In the last 6 months, she's made 3 reports and been visited twice by police officers. The most recent being on Monday the 2nd of August and Friday the 6th of August. Happy birthday to me. Where appropriate action would be taken.
Okay.
The rather unsavory individual who has been targeting her has also targeted several others in the local community. And yesterday made some very disgusting social media posts. He appears to target anyone that doesn't agree with his beliefs. This individual lives in social housing and is using his home to peddle his poison. On Wednesday morning around 7:45 a.m., and in reply to another one of his targets, I posted in a closed group that this individual has no direct access to the terms of his social housing lease, which says you should not use your home to intimidate or harass members of the local public. Or, sorry, members of the public, I should correct that. And urged his latest target to report his actions to his housing association, as my wife has done previously. Just a few hours later, this nice policeman comes knocking on my door, acting on a complaint made to them from this individual about my Facebook post.
He's a punch in the mouth.
We had a no further action chat, and needless to say that he got both barrels from me. 6 months this person has been targeting my wife with intimidation and harassment, and they've done nothing. Yes, 6 months. And it took them all of 6 hours to come knocking on my door.
Richard, go around with a baseball bat.
We don't condone that. Don't be silly. On my door to investigate the complaint about me. What a totally messed up world we live in.
It's disgusting, Richard.
Needless to say, a complaint against the local police force has been made. Still fuming 48 hours later. They'll do nothing about 6 months of intimidation against my wife and others. And yet they'll act immediately on his complaint.
So many things come out of this, Richard, and I don't make light of it whatsoever. Number one, totally embrace and totally relate to your fury, because just having listened to Phil read that out as he does with his beautiful voice, I'm steaming now, absolutely steaming, because this little shit, first of all, is clearly bonkers. This is a charity thing. You know, he's not head of the EU, this role. I'm presuming there's no money involved with it. It's a charity.
Even if he was.
Well, you know, it's unacceptable under any circumstances to try and help charities. And this is, I mean, the guy obviously needs some serious help. He needs some serious help. But that is not your problem. That's his problem. The fact that he can get away with this with impunity is an absolute disgrace. It's a disgrace. No ifs or buts about it. It's disgraceful. And this is what the police do. This is what they do. The people who are really perpetrating shitty little crimes and deep unpleasantness seem to waltz through it, and then somebody else who's got the law and right and the moral right, they're targeted. You know why? Because your missus is a soft target. It's so easy to turn around at someone nice's house.
I was going to say, that's the problem.
You're a soft target, Richard.
But that's the problem with any authority. That's the problem with any authority. I'm not talking about necessarily just police force. You also look at security guards as well. Anything like that. Anyone who's in a position of enforcing law or enforcing rules, they will always pick on individuals who are easy targets. It's exactly the same reason when you look at parking tickets. Why is it you never see a parking ticket on either I need to be really delicate with how I say this, so hold that thought. But why is it you never see parking tickets on cars that are so obviously owned by someone who is less than savory? And you know what I'm talking about. And the reason for it is simple, is the parking officer doesn't want to have to deal with the backlash associated with that.
Yeah, he doesn't want to get punched in the face. That's why. Simple as that. We get a parking ticket. We put it on the driver's seat. We probably pay it the next day because we're idiots. But if you don't care, you're going to have a blazing row. Yeah. Well, you might fight it. I mean, but what I'm saying is, you're not going to turn violent.
No,
I know you're being very careful and you're dancing around it. I'm going to be honest. I don't entirely know. Would it be a BMW with blacked out windows? Is that the sort of direction you're talking about?
That could be one of the directions.
Okay. Okay.
That's just one of the directions.
That's
Seriously,
because
it's just one of the directions. The point is,
attendant when his face kicked in. That's why.
well, look, the point is, very scarcely do you see somebody of, shall we say, a certain caliber driving around in vehicles that have been modified, that are about 20, 30 years old, that are clapped out with the exhaust falling off, and therefore they've got sort of an what are they called? Exhaust amplifier shoved onto the back of it. It's that kind of scenario. Okay. And you just know that the person who owns said vehicle probably wouldn't hesitate. And look, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong per se with not standing up to traffic wardens, because believe me, I would as well. But what I am saying is I'd stand up to them within the confines of the law. And to those who wouldn't, I feel that I'm just using traffic wardens as one example. I mean, I can't count the number of times that you look at nightclubs, if you look at security guards there, the ones they pick on are the easy targets, and it is not good enough.
Well, because they don't want to get beaten up. Loads of messages coming in, then we come straight back to that. Your apology is not accepted. I've got to be honest with you, Jules Silverman. I do want to see that note afterwards, please. And you will be doing PE. You've tried to skip it twice this week, and I'm afraid that just won't wash. And see,
no, skipping was part of the PE.
Oh, that was it. Lovely Demeter, the bionic woman. Ooh, I do love you both. Phil, you're so on a promise there, boy. I start physio this afternoon. I'm a bit scared. You're not scared as your physiotherapist when you rock up.
Now, hang on a second. Lovely Demeter, the way you need to look at this is very simple. The physio is the next step towards you getting your arm back.
She knows what I mean. Chrissy Richards, do you know Jane McDonald? Well, not personally. I know she's a singer, right? My friend is going to see her tomorrow. Okay.
Now, actually, can I tell you, Chrissy, I have to say, am I allowed to tell my Jane McDonald anecdote?
Well, yeah, then I want to come back to Richard Todd's point, because I think it resonates with so many people.
Okay. And first, I can confirm she is, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the nicest people you will ever meet.
Oh, then it's a boring story.
No, it's not boring. She's incredible. Because when I was working at another radio station years ago, I interviewed her only over the phone. Didn't even meet her in person. Interviewed her over the phone.
Best way.
And it was her demand when she heard it was me doing the interview.
That's right.
But interviewed her over the phone.
She would find you irresistible.
That was the one. Actually, she did say, there was a little clip of her saying, "Here, you'll do for me." So actually, I think I was in there. But anyway, the point was,
she wasn't desperate. You'll do. She's a quite a big known celebrity. She's probably a choice. She's got a choice. But it's just that you are such a love god. You are a sex magnet. Had she been in the studio, that would have been it.
Well, it's very kind of you to say so. And I don't like to boast about these things. Truly,
you and Diana Ross, what I should say.
Well, love child. Anyway, look, the point is that when she... Anyway, look, the point is that what happened was that after I'd finished, her PR had said, her PR...
I'm coming out. Not now, Phil, please.
Her PR... Shut up. Her PR, her public relations, the ones who organised the interview.
Yes.
Don't mind my lunatic colleague. Anyway, they had said, if you'd like tickets to the show, do let us. Actually, no, she'd said live on air. If you want tickets, let my guys know. Yeah. And I thought, there's no way I'm going to turn this down. Absolutely not. And I did. So took them up on the offer.
Sure.
And it wasn't just tickets. It was she wanted to meet afterwards to say thank you. Silly little me.
A hotel room in the Travelodge.
No. Silly little me. The number. No. Silly little me. The number of interviews.
She was an absolute bitch, but she was a raven.
No. Come on. The number of interviews that she's done, and she actually sort of met with me after to say thank you, which was incredible. And not only that, she then finished off by saying, "Look, it's very early on in the career. Arguably, it still is for some people, but very early on in the career for me." And she said that if you ever need any help or anything like that, just give me a shout and I'll see what I can do. And I messaged. This is the pièce de résistance here. I did take up on the offer because at the time she was very heavily involved with Loose Women, the ITV daytime show.
Was she? Okay.
And I thought, okay, well maybe this is a way into ITV. I thought, why not? If someone offers to help,
take them up.
And then, oh yes, that's true. I forgot about that. My mother came with me and she said she was lovely. She opened a bottle of champagne for us. It's true, actually, she did. I forgot about that. Anyway, but I did. I messaged afterwards saying to her, I think it was her PA, I think she wanted me to email, and said, look, really want to take you up on the offer. Thank you so much. Would love to know if it was at all possible to sort of maybe get some work experience with ITV. The next thing I know is I get an email from the show's exec producer saying that Jane has been in touch. Let's have a chat.
Good God.
Pardon? What? I was nobody.
And then your mother said, Philip, you are not getting involved with showbiz. It's full of homosexuals and drugs. This is not for you. And that was the end of it.
I don't think she quite put it like that.
Okay.
But anyway, but even so, I would suggest that it was very, very nice of her. Sure enough, it didn't actually go anywhere in the end. It didn't end up working for ITV. And I can't remember what the reason was. Either they thought I wasn't experienced enough, whatever it might be. It never actually happened.
Like Phil, be honest.
But never, whatever it was. But it didn't matter to me. The fact that someone had gone to that degree, I am a total stranger.
It's amazing.
Even now.
Lovely.
Even now, I reckon I'm a total stranger to Jane. I don't believe for a second she'd know who I was. But yet,
it costs nothing.
That's what she did to help me.
About life, and this is important because it is to do with mental health and your attitude to life. It costs no more time to be nice than it does to be horrible. In fact, you've got to
put it to you this way. I think it's easier to be nice. I really think
I was going to say it's less effort to be nice. You have to go out of your way, and God knows Phil and I have met enough of these people who go out of their way just to be horrible. And you think, why are you doing this? Why are you such a? Because fame. I'm not talking about the idiots who do these reality shows, but like fame and celebrity. Several things happen. One is if you were a shit to start with, you really just have the carte blanche, or you're famous and you're rich, so you can be an even bigger shit now. And if you're a nice person to start with, you will continue to be a nice person. I always think that people who are horrible were horrible to start before they made fortunes and became, big stars or whatever.
Mind you, you say that.
And Phil, I'm sure, will back me up that usually the smaller the star, I mean in stature, but the less significant. The less significant, the bigger of an arse they actually are. This is true every time.
Don't you think I'm living proof of that?
No, I'm not. I'm being absolutely serious. When you meet some of these people who have had fame for some nonsense reason, usually due to Simon Cowell or something like that, they're just
shocking, terrible,
ghastly. Then you meet a huge proper star who's had a fabulous career because they're talented, and they're absolutely charming and they're lovely. I mean, yeah, it is ridiculous. And the other thing is, of course, you get surrounded. You can, not at that level, at the top level, you are in a bubble and you're surrounded by people who are making so much money off of you that they become yes men. Whatever you want, you get, because they want to keep you happy because you are a cash machine to them. And therefore, you lose that sense of reality when you deal with ordinary people like Phil and myself and all our listeners around the world, members of the public just want to go, hi, how are you? I really enjoyed watching you in what is, or I liked your last record, or whatever it might be. And all these yes men and yes women are so far up their backsides, all you can see is their ankles. And that's why because they come detached from real life. So you've got the combination.
True.
And most of these things,
so true. Honestly, I'm not going to sit here and list off people like that because it's not worth my while. It's not worth their time. But the point is, I would suggest that it costs nothing to be nice. And even if deep down you're cringing at the prospect of speaking to somebody you don't want to talk to, just smile and nod, because you may never have to speak to them again.
There's a time. Well, the thing is, there's a time and place. I understand if a celebrity is in a restaurant, they're having dinner, or and people bothering it's pretty irritating. And the way people, clever people like Rory Bremner used to say, Rory Bremner would do something which was clever because when he was hugely popular, very talented man, Rory Bremner, a very nice man too, and
I get that impression.
He'd do a voice. Oh, that's good. He'd do a voice, and I won't do a voice. He'd pick whoever was current at the time. He said, "Thank you so much, and may I speak to you after I've had my lunch or have my dinner?" And the people would go away delighted he'd done a voice, and they wouldn't be offended. Then when he'd finished, he'd go over and sign something or whatever it is. It was pre kind of phones when he would do this sort of thing. But so I understand when it's not appropriate. But Richard Dreyfuss, we're going to need a bigger boat. The actor, only in recent years, said, "I so regret being so rude." He would never sign an autograph, never, and he was very, very, very rude. And he's now totally in his older years said, "I was stupid. I don't know why I did that. It was a mistake. People were just trying to be nice."
If only we had someone like a psychotherapist who'd be able to help us understand the way these people's minds work.
We're a radio station funded on mental health and well-being. Why would we have a psychotherapist?
As if by magic.
It would be a miracle.
As if by magic. Waiting very patiently in the digital green room is our first guest for today. A very warm welcome to Andre Radmal. Andre, a very good afternoon to you, sir. Oh, yes, just good afternoon. How are you?
Oh, I love the drum roll as well.
Not at all. Always the best for our guests. Always.
Good to be with you guys. Yeah, I'm good.
Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. There's so many things. I don't know if you've been... well, you may have been listening in or thinking, "Christ, why did I agree to this? This is a nightmare." But there's so many things. Before we get into why you're here, Phil's gone off to do his nails. It's all right. This bullying thing. Could you throw some light, because this is a real thing that one of our listeners, is a very nice man called Richard Todd, not the actor from 603 Squadron. His wife's been abused and bullied for 6 months over. It doesn't matter why. It's just complete rubbish. It's a nonsense thing to have happened. It should never have happened. Why are people so emboldened these days? What's that about?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of bullying it arises from people feeling like insecure or lacking something in themselves. So it kind of boosts their own ego and self-esteem to put someone else down. So, I think a lot of what happens with bullying is someone who feels small makes someone else feel smaller to make themselves feel bigger. And that's the bottom line on it. And until those people kind of face up to themselves really and think about what they're doing, it's quite hard to change it, because they're getting something out of it, I suppose.
I know this wasn't why you're here, but as you are here, I hope you don't mind, because it's important to have not just Phil and I's opinion. You're an expert, for heaven's sake. What advice? This is obviously very distressing for Richard Todd's wife.
Yeah,
we've just called for convenience sake Mrs. Todd. I don't know her name. Is there any positive advice you could possibly offer her?
Well, it's hard not knowing the exact situation, but I think when you've got kind of outright bullying going on, and as I said, I don't know the situation here, but it's a case of, I think, firstly stepping out of that situation as much as possible, or stepping away from the bully as much as possible. That's not always easy if it's in relation to workplace bullying or something like that, but I think putting as many boundaries between you and them as possible is essential.
Yeah.
And I think, and I think, to be fair, I mean, often people say, well, why don't you speak back to them, or why don't you kind of do something? And it's actually very difficult when you've been bullied over that length of time. You kind of lose all confidence really to do anything. So I think you need to kind of recover first before anything happens, and that usually means stepping out of the situation.
John Ryan, one of our not just the listener but also one of our presenters on Men's Radio, bullies become emboldened by apathy. It's important that they are challenged and victims are supported. I'd agree with that. Does that sound
well?
Right
I think the question is there: who does the challenging? Because if you're, I'd agree essentially that bullies won't likely change unless they're challenged, because they're not going to think about what they're doing unless someone pushes back. But that's not always easy for the person being bullied to do, because they've already had their confidence eroded so much. So I think if there's someone else in the picture who can sort of be an advocate for them or stand up for them a bit, that could be helpful, actually, because, I think sometimes it's easy to put the finger on somebody who's being bullied or being put down in some way and think, well, why don't they speak up? But it's just really difficult when you've been demoralized for that long.
It's not just that, you're being slandered, literally slandered, so they may have to resort to suing. But of course, the person's got no money, so then you're wasting your time. I don't know if they can sue the council. Anyway, Richard, we'll come back to that. You have a new book out, which I love the title as a writer myself. I love that. And Phil, my compadre, was talking about it out of the blue, talking about mistakes and regrets and stuff like that. Tell us about your book, because we've inadvertently strayed right into the very subject matter of what you've written about.
Yeah,
It's a happy coincidence, to be honest.
It is. It really is.
I could say it was planning, but it wasn't.
Well, I'll take it. I think that the book basically is kind of arisen out of a mixture of my past. One is that I've been a therapist for a while, and the other is that I trained as an actor originally. So I've kind of put those two things together, really, and I've kind of come up with this concept, which is really about getting unstuck from the old sort of scripts that we tell ourselves or other people have been telling us about who we are.
Love this. Love it.
And then shifting that into new scripts that we can write about who we want to be or who we want to become. And then we can kind of almost use some acting tips to then enact that and step into action. Because I think a lot of therapy stuff, or even self-help stuff is quite kind of in the head. It's useful, but it's kind of a bit like, well, let's change the way we think. Yeah, but let's also change the way we act as well. So I think without that, change becomes a lot slower.
That's very interesting, because we have a lot of guests, hundreds and hundreds, and this whole thing about changing the way that you think.
Yeah,
and I know that's not what you're going to talk about, so I don't want to digress too much. It sounds so easy, because it's you say, "Oh, just change the way you think." You go, "Oh, okay, I will," but it's really tough to do because it's in your DNA. I mean, some of it's so ingrained, the way we beat ourselves up.
Well, this is what I wanted to get to in the book, really. So it's, as I say, it's called Get Unstuck, Change the Script, Change Your Life. And I start the process by talking about how we think in ways that have been conditioned by life, basically. And so the way we see ourselves, the world, and other people is kind of just a lot of stuff we've picked up along the way, or it's based on reactions we've had to bad things happening to us. Any number of things kind of end up with us running these scripts, these stories that we tell. But the problem is that we think that they're the absolute truth and that that's the way the world really is. But actually, it's just something we've come up with to cope with life. So I think once that's kind of out in the open, it becomes a bit easier perhaps to think about, well, okay, well, why not write a different script, or why not
explain
shift
that a
it?
bit more? I get the thing, and I got slightly lost. I get the thing that we tell ourselves one scenario.
Yeah.
This is, I don't know. Let's just pick, I'm a failure, or, I'm useless, or whatever it is. It's always going to be something negative.
Mm-hmm.
And we've either learnt that or we've said that to ourselves. Is that kind of where we're at?
Exactly. It usually is negative. So, and it'll be something like I'm worthless, or I'm stupid, or I can't do maths. I grew up in a school where I was so bad at maths that they wouldn't let me take the exam because they thought it would bring the score of the school down.
Good God. Wow.
Yeah, it was spectacular.
That's disgraceful.
I know. I don't think that would happen now. I hope it
wouldn't be allowed to do that now, would they?
God,
no. Almighty.
Yes. It wasn't just maths, it was all of science as well. So there's about 4 GCSEs that I didn't take because I was so bad at it. But so that left me with a kind of indelible script in my head that I can't do numbers, which is a bit tricky when you're running your own business and you've got to do your accounts.
Precisely.
So I had to kind of deal with that. And I think I had to face up to the fact that that's just the way, life happened for me. And it's not necessarily the truth, because, there's nothing wrong with my brain that I can't actually do numbers. So I think that what the step is that has to happen is to think, okay, let's imagine a different scenario. Let's imagine that I could do this. And then, like, what would be the first step towards being somebody who can do numbers at a simple level? Well, I might have to practice a few things, maybe even have to go and do a little bit of training, but I can actually do it if I do it in bite-sized pieces, in baby steps. And I think what that is a bit like an actor rehearsing a new role, which is that you step by step go into this other story and role, but it's like in incremental steps. So you can't really usually do it immediately and do everything at once, but over a period of time you can build up to it. So that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about.
Isn't it easier that if you're an actor, you're pretending to be someone else?
Yeah.
It's just great. You're dressing up, putting on, an outer skin because it's not your clothes, it comes from wardrobe, and you're pretending to be someone else. And whether you can act or not, that is a kind of easier thing to do. I'm not saying acting is easy. Please don't misunderstand what I'm saying, because there's good actors and terrible actors. But it's much easier to be somebody else than be yourself, right? But we're stuck with being ourselves in everyday life. Totally get, Andre, totally get what you're saying about, right, I'm no good. I'm crap with numbers. I'm terrible. But I get that. There's something you can do. You could take a course. You could get trained. It's much hard. So that's a practical thing. But what if it's like, no, which is much more of a common theme that we have on men's radio and women's radio. I'm no good. I'm rubbish. I'm stupid. I'm not worthy. That's much tougher to deal with than like numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Practical.
So that I would say is a very common script as well. I'm no good. I'm rubbish, and it often plays out in social situations with I can't talk to people. I'm scared of being in parties or something like that. So I think that there's a couple of things which I kind of utilize here. One is just to use a kind of imagination exercise of imagining, the flip side of this negative story. Well, what if I was good at these things? What if I could speak to people? What if I was confident? What would I actually be doing? What would it look like? You can almost run that sort of through the mind's eye as a sort of predicting how that might go. Now, that doesn't necessarily make everything easy or hunky-dory afterwards, but what it does do is it starts to shift us into a different way of thinking and a different way of kind of being with other people. And the other thing is to watch the language, because I don't use it that much, but I think it's not a bad idea to, whatever the negative words are that we're using over ourselves, to write down 6 alternative words that are the exact opposite, and to actually deliberately focus on them several times a day. Some people would call those affirmations, I suppose, or cue cards. And I think that, and also visualizing and imagining a different scenario, can be like an element that helps things start to change, because whatever we imagine tends to be what we sort of move towards doing in actual life.
There's a thing that came up, funny enough, it came up last week with another of our guests about words. That if you're saying, I'm talking about bad language, I've got a potty mouth, there's nothing I can do about it. Just is. But what I'm saying is words. If you say these negative things, even in your head, it's never gonna help you. How do you get that out of your head using your techniques? Because I think so many people, especially during the lockdown, we've been under house arrest for 18 months, basically. It's been awful. We've been faced with ourselves. We don't always like what we see. Some people are thriving, other people are going under. How do you change that narrative? Is it just, because this is a really, if you can give practical help, you would be our hero today. You really would.
So there's one exercise I use sometimes, which is to ask people to write down a piece of A4 paper, just one side, on the question, who am I? So people can write down. Yeah, I know. It's quite deep, but it could start with like, this is my job, this is where I live, this is what I do. But essentially it's going to get into, and I'm crap at numbers and I can't do this, and I'm not confident.
Well, that would be line 2 with me. You see, that's the way I think. That would be line 2.
Yeah. It could
my name is X and I'm rubbish at Oh, but what about all the other stuff? Oh, well, I don't really care about that. You know.
Yeah, and it's not difficult usually to get to these things either. As you say, you could get there in line 2. And then what I ask people to do is to circle all the negative words and all the negative language that they've used, and then on another piece of paper to write the opposite of those words, to write down the kind of the positive to the negative, and then to kind of start using those words, those more positive words, on a more regular basis, and to catch themselves if they start thinking, oh, I'm stupid, or I'm this, to sort of like just replace it with that more positive word. And this takes a bit of practice. This is a sort of daily kind of routine, this to sort of utilize these positives. But you're right. I mean, positive words do actually seem to have quite a big impact on the brain, because the brain starts to line up behind whatever language we're using.
Yes.
That's the thing.
And I only learned that sort of recently, with having great guests like yourself, and thinking about it, because you think, well, they're just words, and then you realize, well, they're not just words, because you're actually acting on what you're thinking. Getting back to your acting thing.
Yeah, the brain is very simple in this respect. The brain tends to believe that whatever the words are that are being utilized and whatever you're imagining is sort of happening. The brain kind of picks up on that, and then the whole body reacts accordingly. So this is why when people are very anxious and they're releasing all this adrenaline and they're feeling like scared and there's the flight or fight reaction going on, the whole body is sort of lined up behind that. And even if it's something that's not actually really happening in the real world, but just a fear of something, the body doesn't really understand that, and the mind doesn't. It's just like, oh no, this is really happening, and so let's get anxious. So I think
it's not. And the thing to stress is it's not happening at all. We had other guests on almost maybe a year or two ago about catastrophizing. In other words, you're lying in bed awake, you can't sleep. It's 3:30 in the morning, and you're going through everything. And absolutely fact, research after research after research shows 95% of the things you think are terrible that's going to happen never happen.
Yeah,
it's just just catastrophe. You're making it up in your mind. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's pretty much the definition of anxiety and stress is worrying about things in the future that are not going to happen.
How do we stop it? Because that's something that I'm guilty. I'll be honest. I'm always very transparent with these things. I don't try and be in BBC. Oh, I'm fabulous. None of this affects me. I do that. Worry about stuff. It's never going to happen. But I know. I think about it.
So I think what I do is I get days sometimes where I think, oh my gosh, I've got to go to that meeting, or I've got to do that thing, and it could go really wrong, and it could all backfire, and it could be a disaster. So I know what that catastrophizing thing looks like, and what that does is I often think it as soon as I wake up in the morning as well.
Yes,
I'm gonna, it's like it hits you straight away. It's like, oh no, I've got to do that thing today, and oh, it's going to be awful, and you feel, and your whole body kind of goes into a sort of
stomach lurches. Your stomach lurches like you're on a roller coaster, and you think, well, wait a tell me if I'm doing the right thing, and then I want to hear the proper way from a professional. Sometimes I do that and I think, oh Christ, and my stomach literally does like a somersault, and then I talk to myself out loud. I give myself a pep talk, and I think, what the hell is the matter with you, you idiot? Right, this is what we're going to do, X, Y, Z, and I hear the words coming out, and I think, that's all right, and then I just move on.
Yeah,
I've no idea why we have this fear, because it's a fear over nothing.
I mean, I think that's a great way to deal with it. Is to sort of.
I think if I was being an idiot, to be honest with you, it works for me. But
I think it's like talking ourselves down. Basically, it's talking ourselves off the ledge, really, isn't it?
Yes, yes, it is.
Like, come on, just let's think rationally. And this is where we do have to use the rational part of our brains, actually, and go, look, it's just this, and if that happened, then what's the worst that could happen?
Precisely.
What really is the worst that could happen, and it's usually way less than we sort of fear it is.
Is it useful to say, and this is something I do, I go, okay, calm down. What's the very, very worst thing could happen from this thing? What's the worst thing that could happen from this? I don't get worried about me. It's not the meetings. I want to talk to you about this. It's not like the meeting. Jesus, I've grown up. I've done meetings for all my working life. Meetings don't bother me. Presentations don't bother me. Logically, I know I can do it. So I've no idea what the concern is. But you say, what is the absolute? My dad had a great say. My late dad, he died 21 years ago, right? And I said, "Oh, Dad, this is." He goes, "Are they going to drag you out in the street and shoot you?" And I went,
Yeah.
"No." He goes, "Well, then shut up."
Yeah.
And that was it. And I really lived the rest of my life like that. Are they? If the meeting goes wrong, right? Are they going to take me outside, in the street and shoot me in the head? No, of course they're blooming not. So that's the end of that. That's the worst that could happen.
I think
Not
it's
gonna happen.
quite helpful to think about it from a ridiculous point of view as well, like that, and to go like, who's going to die if this happens? Is anyone going to die if this happens? Is it going to end up on the front page of the Sun if this happens? Is it going to be like I'm going to be dragged through? I don't know. Whatever.
Are they going to walk like Gramer's home? Shame. They're going to strip you naked and walk you down Oxford Street, are they? No, not going to happen.
No, but it's good to get it out. I think this is the thing. I think it's good to articulate that and to say it and to get the ridiculousness of it out in the open, because then it just becomes less powerful over us and our thinking. To sort of expose the ridiculousness of it is really helpful, actually. And then I would go a step further, actually, and then replace that negative sort of thing with, well, what if it went really well?
Yeah.
What's the best that could happen? Let's not just think about the worst. What is the best thing that could happen? And maybe there's just as likely that could happen as the worst thing. Why does it have to be always the negative?
It's true. See, if I come into a situation, people get annoyed with me because they think I'm not listening. But being a writer, I could regurgitate verbatim everything that's gone on in the meeting, and I'm already thinking, right, if we do this, and I'm already pre-planning. So that's sort of that. Yeah, I like to look at the positive and think, what is the best? How can we manipulate and work this the best, and work smartly and work cleverly, and make this really an exciting thing rather than just an average thing? Something I want to talk to you about as well, which a lot of people have. Low level, I call it. You've probably got a better term for it. Low level anxiety. We walk around, especially during this COVID nightmare. We walk around with low level anxiety. We don't know what we're anxious about, but we feel anxious. What is all that?
Well, I think that in terms of what's happened recently, it's not surprising because there's this kind of background threat to life going on.
Yes.
So really, it's like living in a slow car crash, really, slow motion car crash, because there's trauma. There's trauma going on in different ways. There might be the trauma of people we know or ourselves getting ill, maybe seriously ill. So there's that to contend with. But even without that, there's the knowledge that there's people not far away down the road in the hospital, or the friends of friends, or people we know slightly less, who are having a terrible time. And it's airborne and it's invisible. So who knows who's next?
How important is that? If you're walking down the street and you see a dog, well, I love dogs, but I'm using this just as a simple analogy only because I walk the dog twice a day. You see a dog and suddenly the dog's baring its teeth and the owner's clearly crap and has no control. You understand that. It's a visual threat. You understand how to deal with it.
Yeah.
The whole notion with this pandemic, and you as a professional, help us out here, it's invisible. You can't see it, you can't hear it, you can't smell it, you don't know where it's coming. So it's your worst kind of nightmare. How are we supposed to process that? And please, I'm not talking about washing your hands and being sensible. How are we mentally supposed to process?
Sure, yeah. No, I think that the thing about this is that that's really difficult is that it's beyond our control to some extent, apart from the hand washing and the things like that. To a very large extent, a lot of this is sort of beyond our control. And so what I tend to advise people is to there needs to be a little bit of reclaiming of one's own sense of control and responsibility. So that might be, planning the day, or planning to do things that we enjoy, which are going to be not influenced in a sense by the fears. things that we can do that are kind of normal, really like normal life.
Yeah.
But I think the big thing is to resume a sense of control. I mean,
And how do we do that? Because what is interesting, and you as a psychologist must have studied this, because this has been a like a gift in a horrible way. Within weeks, people called it Project Fear. I understand you had to move an entire world. Let's just deal with the UK for a second. There are people watching it all over the world at the moment, but just deal with the UK. You've had to move a population of 67 million people to be frightened from a standing start, because if they're not frightened, they won't be careful. I can understand the logic if they don't take it seriously. So we've been fed this, and it's worked. You've got 67 million people who are quite scared. All right. And it's very difficult to process that, isn't it? It's difficult to undo it.
Yeah. I think that there's one of the effects of that is that it's also upended people's lifestyles and patterns of work, and the usual routine has gone to pot for a lot of people. So it's not just the fear of getting ill. It's also the actual issues to do with the economy and to do with work patterns and to do with one's usual life being upended.
And relationships, some relationships, because suddenly you're in a pressure cooker, because normally if you're in a partnership or whatever, the kids are going to school, you're going to one job, or probably both going to jobs, or whatever the permutation is, doesn't really matter. Suddenly you're in a pressure cooker, and it's like, oh my God, do I really love this person? What is my marriage like? I don't really like my kids. I mean, all sorts of things can happen, or it can have the opposite effect, and it's great. You think, yeah, this is lovely. I'm enjoying this. I realize how lucky I am. I've got great kids, great partner. I'm okay.
Well, I think this goes back to what we were saying just before about the more positive story element, because a lot of people I know have had a fantastic lockdown and have really enjoyed it, and have actually got closer to their families, have been particularly if they're a bit introverted, they've loved working at home and they've really had a good time. Other people have absolutely hated it.
Yeah.
So it's very much horses for courses, and depends on people. But there's also the statistical element to this. This is where the more rational kind of looking at the catastrophizing bit comes in. There is a very big unknown element to this, which is kind of scary, but that you can also do the maths and look at what are the statistical chances of dying of COVID in the UK today. Well, they're not certainly not as high as they were, put it that way. And they, what are the statistical chances of dying of something else? Well, there's a lot of other things that you could die of as well.
Precisely, get hit by a bus. I mean,
anything could happen.
This is a fact, but of course, into that complicated equation, and it is one of the true instances where, as you've said, for once you can actually do the maths as opposed to just being sarcastic and saying, "Hey, do the maths." I mean, you really can do the maths. Do the math, singular. Americans say maths. Here's the thing: you've got people who we're not all on the same side here with this, are we? We've got a very divided society, and people who are, let's just call them the anti-vaxxers, who think they're going to be linked to a 5G mask with nanobots from Bill Gates and all that crap. And you got the other people saying, look, if we want this thing to go away, or at least be some level of control, you got to be vaccinated. Otherwise, you're an idiot. So this is difficult. This is stressful.
This is very stressful because, and I think this is an issue we've got in society generally, is the divisiveness, the separation between us and them, whoever they are.
Yeah, who are they? Who are these? This is it. I always say, I say they are, and I always go, who are they? Who are these mystical they?
Well, it's usually people, I suppose, who are not like us and don't think the way we think, or don't look the way we look, or it's these very artificial dividing lines that definitely will increase the stress levels across the society as well, and also the animosity between people, which is really, that's a real difficulty we have right now, I think.
This level of anger which is in society is unsustainable. I honestly believe that it's just unsustainable. We can't keep up like this.
Yeah, I was actually contributed to an article yesterday for a paper which was about self-compassion. And it turns out that the UK is one of the worst countries in the world for people having compassion, self-compassion.
What is I understand compassion. What does self-compassion mean?
Well, I think self-compassion is also that kind of looking after ourselves, caring for ourselves, being kind to ourselves, and not beating ourselves up if we make a mistake. You know, yeah. Do you know what I'm saying?
Do I know what you're saying, fella? Yes, slightly, Andre. It's true, isn't it?
And you see, if we live in a society that's very divided, where there's a lot of anger towards other people, no surprise that we exert the exact same approach to ourselves if we do something wrong. You know, we either blame someone else, or the flip side is we can really pull ourselves to pieces over it as well.
Very hard. I believe in trying to be kind to ourselves. I really do. And I'm not talking about the Californian tree hugging nonsense. I'm talking about even giving yourself little treats during the day. There's no reason why, you want to go and have a cup of coffee and sit in a cafe for 20 minutes. Just go and do it. You want to just stop working or whatever. Unless you're a brain surgeon in the middle of an operation, don't do that, or an airline pilot. But, have a little break, have a little walk. Just the small things which really cheer you up. It works wonders for me. I don't want the big things, I'm very happy with little things which are makes you kind to yourself.
Well, it's supposed to be, and I believe it is, very good for stress levels as well, because it just helps us to settle down a bit and to relax a bit. So it's really useful.
Here's a good question coming in from Spain for you. All right.
Yeah.
Why is there so much anger and uncaring to this, from Chrissy Holt, today in the UK? It was never like this when I was growing up. We always got on with everyone. Why are we? Yeah, it's a great question, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really complicated question as well, because there'll be so many different strands to this. One of the things I think that is newer, certainly in my lifetime, is that if there is a kind of kickback or criticism about a public figure or a politician or footballer or whatever it is, because of the speed of social media, it can be weaponized and delivered very, very quickly around the world immediately, and that's definitely escalated things.
It's every single expert like yourself that we have on, Phil and I talk about it. Social media can be a lovely thing, but it can be brutally evil. It's an enabler of evil. No two ways about it.
It's like, in the olden days when I was a lad, you might write a letter with paper and a pen, and that gives you plenty of time to think, what am I saying? And then you might look at it and think, oh, I don't think I'll send this. I think I'll keep this to myself. It's not like that with...
I was at Capital Radio for 20 years, right? And back in the day, pre-internet. And I've said this before, and it's absolutely true. If you got a letter and it was in green ink, you thought, nutter. You knew, nutter. And you'd open the letter and you'd read it, and it was the ramblings of a lunatic. Putting that to one side, they were either in love with you or they thought they were married to you. I mean, I can't even tell you where oh, Jesus, horrible. I've been stalked for years. It was deeply unpleasant, all of that sort of stuff. You get on with it. But the thing about it was, and it confirms what you're saying about social media and the speed of it. Somebody had to find the writing paper, find the ink, find a pen, write the letter, find an envelope, hope they had a stamp, walk down to the post box. It took effort. The fact that you were mad as a March hare, put that to one side. It took effort. Now, any moron with a keyboard, boom, done in 10 seconds, takes no effort at all. And you're anonymous. It's horrible. Horrible.
I think that's certainly added to how things have escalated. It's not the only reason, but I think it certainly contributes to it.
It's horrible. Now, what is the name of your book again? So
it's called
do a bit. Really love it.
Give us
a big plug. Do the big plug. Come on.
Okay, so here comes the big plug. So my book is called Get Unstuck, change the script, change your life, and it's on all sort of platforms you'd expect it to be on in terms of booksellers, and it's out in Kindle version as well as hard copy.
Do you do? Are you doing it? Going to do an audio version?
Yeah, I will do an audio version. That's the next thing on my to-do list.
Those are really, really helpful, I find, because you haven't always got time to read. But when you're traveling or, in my case, walking the dog or whatever, I'm getting through so many books and learning and I'm really enjoying it. It's a great, great thing. Thank you so much for joining us. Really, really appreciate it. Very, very interesting. Is there a website, by the way, for you?
Yeah,
personally? I can't put it up because Phil has to do all that.
That's all right.
He's having a manicure. So, what is it?
Okay. So it's Andre Radmall, RADMALL.com, just andreradmall.com, and you can find out about my coaching work and courses that I do there. Yeah.
See, like magic. Phil's secretly, he's like God.
That's
you don't
amazing.
see him, but you have to believe he's there.
It's beautiful.
Andre, thank you so much. Have a lovely weekend, and thank you. I really enjoyed talking to you. It was lovely.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Bye. Boy, some great comments coming in here. Chrissy Holt.
I suggest we wish that cold better as well.
Chrissy Holt says, sitting in my garden watching all the birds is cheering for me, especially the dominant doves. Well, hello. We're back to Soho. Sounds like something you get on Old Compton Street. Hello, I'm Dominant Dove. Are you? First four, not twice. Ask for Maureen. It's really important. I did something yesterday which sounds completely mad.
You actually did something yesterday? Good God!
Oh, shut up! I do something. I do something every day. Far too much at the moment. It's another story. We talk about it another time. When I'm walking Ebony, the mini schnauzer, and I won't do it for anybody's garden, obviously, because that's private property. But when I'm walking along, especially through woods and stuff, and some of the paths are overgrown with stuff, and it kind of drives me nuts. And I like symmetry as well, for foliage and stuff. So I took with me my secateurs, and I tidied up an entire area. It was just great. I took down some of the branches of trees that were just over the way, making it dark and gloomy, letting this light get to underneath. Felt great. Loved doing it. It was really good. I'm sure people
when you give something to Mother Earth, she gives something back to you. That's why that leak in that roof meant your ceiling caved in the other day.
What's a leak in the roof? Veronica Curran, manners and respect are gone. Community spirit like nicking the apples 2 streets away. A mum clipped your ear when we got home. Hey, that is very true. There are no manners. There are no manners. Manners have. Oh God, I just sound like an old fart, but it's true. Manners are down the toilet. Respect,
I don't care what anyone says. I'm sorry, that is not sounding old. That is a perfectly reasonable observation that's very sad as well. I can't count the number of times. It actually happened to me this morning, okay? Walked into the office, said good morning to somebody who I don't know personally, but happens to be on they're on the cleaning team, okay? And I thought, you know what? They probably get enough nonsense thrown at them. We need to acknowledge they're human. So I said, morning, totally ignored.
Probably didn't speak English.
No.
Confuse them.
No. Believe me, they would have to. Did they
hear you? I mean, joking aside, because when I'm walking, I've got earphones. I've usually got earphones in, not like great big things, because I don't want them nicked.
No earphones.
And I can't hear. So people sometimes are talking to me, and I bet they think I'm rude. I actually can't hear. So I'm listening to a book.
No, I promise you, there were no earphones, because I look out for these things.
Did you say good morning again? Did you say good morning again? That's one of my tricks.
No, what I normally do if that happens is I just say or not, and I walk off. And my other personal favorite as well, which I'm perfectly sure that you need no hesitate. You actually no encouraging to believe that I do that. But the other thing as well that I would often react in a way is if someone was to say, if I was to say something along the lines of, let's see, okay, I'm trying to think of how to say this without sounding rude.
That
Quite
sounds
tricky.
rude. What the hell? What are you going to do? I'm not going to fire you. You could always resign.
Okay, well, I don't think it's me who sounds rude. Okay, I absolutely can't stand if I ask somebody how they are, even if I don't really care how they are,
Yeah.
and they don't care how I am. I still expect the same courtesy. I just expect someone to say, "Fine, thanks. Are you okay?" Even if they don't really want to know.
No, they're not. No, they're not. They're not.
Even
Everyone's
if they
so
don't
wrapped
want to
up with
know
their
that.
own stuff.
But what happens now is that, and this is again a great trick because it's quick and it gets the message across. Is if someone says in response to you saying, "How are you?" "I'm fine," or "I'm fine, thanks," you just simply say, "As am I, thanks for asking."
Yeah, that is very passive. Joking aside, that's very passive aggressive. Because
Maybe,
then things can just
but it gets the
escalate.
point across.
I can't be asked. If it's somebody I don't care. You go, "How are you?" And I go, "Fine." I'm not gonna engage any further because I don't care. And I think one of the great freeing things in life is to just say, "I don't care."
Oh yeah, no,
I
make
just
no
don't give a
mistake.
shit.
I
I just
desperately
don't
do
care.
try. No, I absolutely do try
I
and
just
say that
don't
to myself.
care. Screw you. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect my family. You're not upsetting my children. Screw you. I don't care.
But it's just ill manners.
Of course, it's ill mannered. Yesterday, I had 3 things with cyclists that drove me crazy. And this is it's to do with manners. It's to do with your mental health. It's to do with how stupid little things can really annoy you and mess up your day. We can come back to that in a second. Jeremy Vine. I've never met Jeremy Vine. I don't know Jeremy Vine. I've seen him on TV, and I see his Twitter. I see his Twitter stuff every day. Now, he's a mad keen cyclist. No problem. All right? You want to be a cyclist? Good luck. Fair enough.
It's a shame because other than that, I can confirm he's a very nice chap.
Well, he doesn't come across as a nice chap on Twitter, I have to say.
No, I know.
He comes across as an absolute horse's ass.
No, it's a cycling thing. I don't understand it.
He's obsessed. It's like a cycling Nazi. I mean, it's just awful. And he did this thing, and he goes, "This is how to ride a bike in the country." And he posts a picture of cyclists being 4 abreast.
Yep.
4, not 2 abreast.
Yep.
You're talking on a country lane, 4 abreast. It took all my willpower not to just go nuts. So I thought, Russie, don't even engage. Just walk away saying you're an arse. And because I thought it was disgraceful, absolutely disgraceful. And then he goes, "Oh, isn't it funny?" Isn't the next day, because obviously people pilloried him for it. And the next day he posts a picture of a tractor. He goes, "Isn't it funny? No one complains about when it's a tractor in a country lane, but when it's cyclists." And I thought,
Well,
listen, you stupid fool, because cyclists are self-centered and they're cycling because they want to cycle. A tractor's working. It's the countryside. You need a tractor. The tractor has to move from A to B to do its work. You can't complain about it. You won't like it. It has a right to do that. And that is the width of the tractor. The tractor can't get narrower. You, with your stupid friends, riding 4 abreast in a country lane. Bullshit. Anyway, that was the kind of in the back of my mind. I'm walking Ebony, listening to a really interesting book as a story from 1931 by Nio Marshall, and listening to her biography as well, then getting into the story. And I'm listening I'm in a lovely mood. I'm just minding my own business. I'm on the pavement. I'm walking down a particular alleyway near me, and I'm on the pavement. It's a pavement, Phil. It's not a road. It's a narrow.
When you say a particular alleyway.
Yeah, it's an alleyway. It's just an alley that leads from two points.
No, I just wonder when you say a particular alleyway, whether or not there's one of ill repute.
Where we met? Yeah, no, not that one. And I'm minding my own business, and suddenly I hear "sorry" screaming like a banshee, and I turn around, and it's this geezer, middle-aged man on a bicycle, screaming. He didn't say "excuse me" or "sorry," screaming like a demon.
What to you?
Right, there was only me there. It was me and a dog. There's nobody else, just me and a dog, and he's riding along.
I wasn't there, so I don't know that, do I? But anyway, that's what I was asking. Was it just you?
Explaining. It's a nice, quiet alleyway where I'm just walking along, right? And he's coming along like, Eddie Merckx or something. Screw him. And he's yelling and screaming like he owned. It's a pavement, Philip.
And pavements belong to pedestrians.
It's a pavement where I'm walking my dog get from A to B. So that just pissed me off. Driving back the other night from the Soho Whiskey Club, not one bike. No, I'm coming from Soho to where I live. So I'm driving right through London, the major roads and the B roads and the A roads. Not one bike had a light on.
Oh.
Not one. Now, I've been pulled over in Regent's Park before by the police because inadvertently I had my fog lights on. I knocked the switch by mistake. They pulled me over. They bollocking me. They were incredibly aggressive because I had fog lights on. Right? They're not dazzling anybody. They're fog lights, right? It's not the Duke of Hazzard with big lights. Just fog lights on the car. By mistake, I hit the button. They pull me over. I haven't seen any cyclists be pulled over by the police.
Now I have to tell you, I have seen it once. I've seen it once because there was a cyclist on, funnily enough, would you believe, at Regent's Park, where they went through, the traffic lights where you've got outer circle and then you've got that cut through road to the inner circle.
Yeah, sure.
Right. Okay. So it was just there. And this cyclist stupidly went through the red light. And I was so impressed. The police officer pulled them over straight away.
Right.
I was so impressed by that.
Did you beat him up?
Sadly not. No, I strongly suspect there was a little bit of a case.
I'm sorry about that. It's just me.
Well, no, I strongly suspect it was probably a little case of a little tap on the wrist. Don't do it again. Yeah, but at the same time, it was still nice.
And then the third thing with the cyclist. Now, the new thing. Now, I'm not being rude. I know you have one, but you're a very sensible person. You've got an electric little scooter thing. I don't mean a moped.
I have, but I don't. If I'm honest with you, I don't really use it in the way that most e-scooters are used. In the sense that I don't really take it off of private land. So
the new thing is certainly where I am, and if you go to town, it's a freaking nightmare. As if it's not dangerous enough with the cyclists and the people delivering food are all on loaner plates and don't know how to ride a moped because they're all mad. So the new thing is they're using the scooters. Some of them use the pavements. These scooters are seriously fast. We're not talking about a little Mobo scooter when we were 7 years old, right? They're electric. They're quick. No lights, no safety gear, no lights at night.
Well, hang on. Some do. You can't say none of them.
I have, and they're always wearing black clothing. Yesterday, I saw the ultimate, all right? I'm driving along. It's night. Along comes one of these stand-up scooters, no lights, guys wearing black clothes, difficult to see, and he's got his kid standing in front of him.
Yeah, that's not great.
Now, this is the new thing. This is nuts. This is an accident waiting to happen. You've got your kid standing there holding on to nothing, no helmet, nothing, and you're doing about 25, 30 miles an hour. Come on.
Well, hang on. It may seem like that, but honestly, those scooters are normally maximum speed 15 miles an hour.
Okay.
Normally they are. Like, it doesn't mean they always are, but they're normally
that. When the car hits you because they can't see you because you're wearing dark clothing with no illumination, no lights, nothing, you're doing 15 miles an hour. It'll be the car's fault, which is why I've got cameras everywhere.
No, that I can't deny that absolutely does drive me mad as a motorist. Is I hate the way that, by and large, the fault lies with the driver, and it's just not fair. It is not right because it isn't always the driver's fault. Because just because you have a more dangerous vehicle, why on earth is it automatically you who has got the problem?
It's not, which is why I got the dash cam a couple of years, 2-3 years ago, because I won't travel without my dash cam.
Mm.
And Richard Todd says, yes, you do 33 miles an hour on a 30 mile an hour road, you get £100 fine. I have to sit through 4 hours of boredom. Yeah, that's a speed awareness course. Ramsey says, riding 4 abreast is not permitted according to the highway code. Please have a word with Jeremy.
We've all been there.
What? Yeah. Please talk to kids. Do the same thing here. We're talking about scooters. They're nutters, noisy, and a pain. Whiz round like no one is around. Yeah, this is the new thing. It's the new arrogance. It's the new aggressiveness. Like we needed another thing for them to do that. Same as Spanish cyclists. They do the same. They won't move. I wouldn't have minded if the guy said, excuse me, I'm walking and he's coming up behind me I've got my little earphones in and I'm listening to a book, walking my dog. The aggression, the privilege.
Well, because naturally it was your fault. You got in the way.
What, by walking on a pavement?
Yeah, how dare you? What's the matter with you?
How dare I walk with the dog on a leash on a pavement? You're right. I'm an idiot.
Well, I'd say how dare you use the term leash when you're in the UK, but yes.
Should have been walking around the M25, shouldn't I, really?
That's actually, do you know, that's another thing that really annoys me. Really, really annoys me. Is why is it whenever there is someone stupid enough to stray onto a motorway, that there is a sign that comes on that says slow down pedestrians? No, if you're going to be enough of an idiot to walk on a motorway, I don't care. That's your problem. Don't be stupid. It's well known, widely known. You do not walk on the motorway.
Because you've got a moron who's either broke, either they're just mad and they're walking along a motorway, but it's going to give you a fighting chance to have a look out. So I go along with that, actually. Veronica Curran, it's like you're banned from cutting. Yeah, the elastic band, which is brilliant. We have the ability, I'm going back to our last guest, Andre, the ability to use our mental well-being when we start the day with positivity, acceptance. We think we're capable of creating our mood. Visual reminder, I find, helps. We are, until some idiot comes along and buggers up your day, we are perfectly capable of deciding what kind of day we're going to have. You can't affect outside sources. You can affect the way you interact with those outside sources. But sometimes things happen which are very sad and you have to try and process that. But you can try and dictate to yourself what kind of a day that you're going to have. I think that's absolutely true. Chrissy Holt, do you want to read? Oh, no, I'll read it only because you're going to struggle finding it. It's quite high up. We're talking about having confidence. I wasn't very confident. When I was 33, I went on a social services course to help with my job working with the elderly. The first thing, we were divided into groups with a social worker. For the first 10 minutes, no one spoke. Yep. Then gradually we all started talking about ourselves. This course improved my life and confidence. That's great. Well done. That's lovely. And going back to Richard Todd's point, this bullying of his wife, which is absolutely unacceptable and madness. Veronica Curran again from Edinburgh says social media gets more police response. It's terrible, but it's true. Richard, that's Richard Todd. Sadly, your lovely wife should leave the role. I think she should tell him to stuff it. Sadly, it should leave the role. Nothing is worth dealing with what you are. Unfortunately, the support isn't there. If you're not being supported, I think Veronica's. Where do you stand on this, Phil? You're doing a volunteering job. Richard Todd's wife, Mrs. Todd, is trying to help others. The previous incumbent was 80 years old. She retired. She got the job. It's a charity. She's trying to help. She's not getting the support from it. I would tell them to stick it. Go and do something else. I really would. The hell with them.
Well, I think there's two. See, it's tricky because yes, I probably would be tempted to do the same, but I'd also suggest. Yeah, but it also suggest it depends how much it means to her. She might not want to quit it. I don't say that but she's got every right to want to work somewhere without feeling like she's being harassed. I know she's not being harassed by the workplace. Don't get me wrong. But what I mean is that she's being
supported properly.
Maybe, but that might be that the organization doesn't have the correct support in place. It doesn't mean that she doesn't enjoy working there or working with them, whatever you want to call it.
It's a bit woolly, Phil. It's a bit woolly. They could give us some support.
No, I'm not. Listen,
she's feeling unsupported.
No. I'm not excusing. They need to remedy it.
And the bully
but what I mean is
walking away.
Your argument was you tell them to stick it, and I'm saying, but actually that's not the approach either, because the answer is if she needs support, they need to provide her with that support. It's not a case of, well, okay, clearly they're not going to do anything, so I'll walk away, because that might mean something to her.
No, I understand that you're admitting defeat. And they will have won if Mrs. Todd, I don't know her first name, so we call her Mrs. Todd for politeness. If Mrs. Todd does walk away, this bully living in sheltered housing, who sounds horrible, doesn't sound like the most charming person on the world, he's won and she's lost. But nothing's worth, is it worth it? No. I love this. This is from Jules Silverman. She posted this earlier in the show. I love this saying, says Jules Silverman. Be kind whenever possible. It is always possible. From somebody called Tenzin Gyatso, which I thought was one of the dishes at my local ramen restaurant. I think you've got a choice of
I
noodles.
was going to say,
You've got
I
a
feel
choice
like
of
that I've
noodles. It
heard
comes
that
with
as
a
well.
broth. You can have an egg with it, not have an egg with it. It's great. Tenzin Gyatso.
And for £5 more, you get a selection of sashimi.
It is. That's nice. And then, but we don't have the kimchi. I don't like kimchi. That's great.
Yeah, I've heard you say this before. What's wrong with kimchi?
Because it tastes horrible.
It tastes horrible.
I don't like it. I've tried it. I wanted to like it. I just didn't like it. There we go. So, Richard, that was very interesting. It's just an extraordinary thing. Here we go. Ramsey says, yeah, you see, if she leaves the role, the bullies have won. Absolutely right. No, I agree. I'm just thinking for her own mental health.
Well, I'd suggest if she's got any position of authority, perhaps maybe needs to implement a new rule that says anyone who is subject to such behavior, the perpetrators will be banned from said organization. Now, there's a thought.
But I don't think the guy in the sheltered accommodation is part of the organization. He was...
Oh, I suppose, yes, he was just trying to...
So he's just being horrible. Ramsey says, my brother used to get speeding tickets in the US all the time and always elected to take the speed awareness course. He said that there were always good-looking girls at these events. And once he mentions he was speeding in his Porsche, he always managed to get a date. I don't approve of his lifestyle, by the way. You're jealous. You're just so jealous of your brother. Do you think he's called Ramsey X Masalem? The brother. So we've got Ramsey Y Masalem.
Oh, that would make sense, yes. But hang on a second. It depends, because X and Y chromosomes, I'm not sure. You're right. Maybe that would be his sister.
Could be Ramsey D Masalem. D for dude. Or P for player.
P for Porsche.
P for Porsche. It's very good, that, Ramsey. I love that.
Now,
here's the thing. Here's a little bit of knowledge, got nothing to do with mental health, but it comes off the back of what Ramsey's brother was doing, picking up girls. Why did Tesla name their models S and then the 3? Think of what the Tesla
S,
model.
then the X, and then the 3, wasn't it?
Why did they do
it? Well, the Model S, which was the first one, is so called because it is it's because it runs on electricity, so it's the Tesla Sparky. Then
this is desperate. this is desperate. You're groping. It's a fabulous little joke by the software engineers at Tesla, because it spells out sexy. That's the gag. Model S, they couldn't get Model E because Mercedes had it, so they had to put in a 3, which is like an E. Then they brought out the Model X, they called it the X. Then they brought out the Model Y. It spells out sexy. It's their joke. That's the only reason they gave those models the names. I love stuff like that because it's just so silly. But it's great.
There's logic in there somewhere. Anyway, there's also logic to be found as well.
This is going to be a really good link, everybody. Pay attention. This is how Pro does it. Come on.
Thank you so much. Is in a new book that's out at the moment. We've been teasing it actually for a few weeks because we've been hearing a little bit about it. But today we're actually going to hear from the author himself. Yes. As Luke Newman waits patiently in the digital green room, it's time to hear about the mental health moles. And no, I'm not talking about those nasty things on the chin. A very good afternoon to you, Luke. How are you?
Good afternoon. How are you?
Yeah, we're very well, thank you. Well, I am. I don't know how Russ is, to be honest with you. It's not that great.
I don't even know how I am. I've got no idea. I don't know.
Well, I'm doing a Russ and standing up for you today as well. So I'm not sitting down.
Well, I hope you haven't got a Russy back. I won't wish that on anybody.
No,
maybe Jeremy Vine. Just so he can stop cycling for 5 minutes.
I don't understand why the two of you are making a stand. Ha ha! Thank you very much.
What is on your top? I know this is why you're here, but I can't. It looks like constellations, or what are they?
No, you know what? It's actually Space Invaders.
I knew it was something to do. That's really cool. Yeah. I really like that, Luke. That's really good. Now, thank you so much for joining me and Phil and all the gang all over the world. You got a new book, and you were kind enough. You sent me a PDF of it, and I was just like, "Oh, I love this! I just loved it." Talk us through.
Well, yeah, thank you very much. I don't know if you remember, I've been on before.
Yes.
Yeah, so I run a community
I'd
interest company.
forgotten. No, I'm joking. Of course, I'm kidding you.
I run a community interest company called Ferment Talk. From my background, I lost both my mum and sister to cancer over the last 15, 16 years. So it's obviously given me a lot of grief, and with that slight depression, anxiety, and even a slight OCD from that as well. But I've always been open with my mental health illness.
Can I stop you? I'm
Yeah,
so sorry.
can you
I want
remind
to
us
stop
of
you
that?
there.
Remind us of how that manifested. Sorry, what happened
The
that you say you
OCD
developed OCD?
Yeah, I didn't realise I had it.
If those who don't know, but we mustn't assume that people know that it's obsessive compulsive disorder. But anyway, sorry.
It is, yeah. So I had repetitive. There's a couple of things that really spring back into mind is where I'd go halfway down the road, driving off to work, and I had to come back just to make sure I checked my I blocked the front door, and I had to do it a few times. It wasn't just once or twice. And there was, I remember another time where I had a speed camera, one of those portable ones with a policeman with his camera, and I went past him, knowing that I hadn't actually gone over the speed limit, driven to work 15 miles away, and then my anxiety crept in, and had to run a race back just to ask the policeman if he caught me or not, even though I knew he hadn't. It was just things like that.
Was he able to answer that though?
Yeah, because they have a record of who they catch.
No, sorry. What I mean is I didn't realise that he'd actually be allowed to tell you if he had or not. That's what I was surprised at.
It might have been the panic in my eyes, which made him probably reassure me.
And maybe the fact that you drove up at 28,000 miles an hour on the pavement, screeched to a halt, jumped out Starsky and Hutch style, grabbed him by the lapels. Maybe.
Yeah. So all those crept in, and obviously losing my mum, and she was only 54, and my sister was 44. So my mum was at ovarian cancer, and my sister was breast cancer, and obviously that's left me heartbroken. But like I said, I've always been open with it. I've always been able to talk to family and friends and strangers in the street. But I know it's hard for a lot of people, especially us men, to do that. So back in December of 2019, which was Christmas Eve, I thought I'm just going to do a Facebook group. Let's call it Ferment Talk, and it just allows men, if they're feeling a bit down, if they've got anxiety, grief or depression, let's come together and we'll see what we can talk about, and just get different people's opinions of it. So it started off really big. I've got lots of likes on Facebook, and lots of just not just from men, but from partners, from girlfriends and wives, saying this is exactly what my other half needs. So in February of 2020, I had my first group meeting in a cafe in Bedfordshire, and I thought, 3 or 4 men to the door. If that's all we get, absolutely fantastic, because that's 3 or 4 men who are open up about how they're feeling. Had 23 men come through the door.
Wow. Oh, bravo!
And I was like, wow, this is just amazing.
Yeah.
And obviously we had 2 or 3 more sessions, and then that small little word COVID crept in. So it closed all the cafes, and I was like, well, what do I do now? Luckily, I moved it all onto Zoom, onto Zoom every single Wednesday. So every single Wednesday since beginning of March of last year, we have our group meetings, and we're still getting around about 18, 19 men a week.
That's very good, Luke,
just talking about how they're feeling. Good. And we, the men who are attending week in, week out, the improvement we're seeing in those men is just incredible. Just be able to talk about how they're feeling. It's just amazing. And now
the thing I'd like to stress is that you don't have, and I mean this in a very positive way, don't jump in because you think I'm being rude. You don't have training except from life. You're not like our previous guest. So you're not a doctor or anything. And this is what happens when people can talk, which is why I came up with the strapline when Howard and I started this station, January 2019. 2019, where men really talk. The fact that now 50% of our audience are women is absolutely fabulous. I didn't think it would happen. It's great. But it's just, if you talk like you did, and you reached out, and major applause to you, this is the results you can get. It's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you very much. So what we're seeing is that it's almost a prevention group before they can go to the more professional groups such as mine, Calm, Samaritans, if they need further help, or obviously the GP for counselling. I personally had 2 lots of counselling. I've had cognitive behaviour therapy as well. But what we're seeing is it could be a prevention group. So if they start talking and they feel a lot better for it, perhaps they don't need to go to that extra step of counselling. But
well, actually, I'd say go one step further, because you're probably more approachable than the council's counsel.
Yes.
And it's not because that there's anything wrong per se with going to counselling. And make no mistake, if obviously someone needs it, I'd only ever encourage them to do that. We all would. But the point is that it can be quite a scary prospect when people, even now, even though obviously we're so much better as a, sorry, the S word again, as a society, actually talking about mental health. I know there's a long way to go, but we're better at talking about it than we once were. Even though that's the case, just the thought that someone is seeking professional psychological help, that in itself, I think, is super scary for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And therefore, if you are going just to meet with a group of guys, a group of friends who will become friends, obviously, you don't know they're friends initially, but if you're going to meet with a group who are they're just like you, basically.
I have to admit, I couldn't agree more. The lads who've come on a weekly basis for the last year or so now have become really good friends of mine. And, we've said about friendship, sometimes they can't talk to their own friends. They can't talk about how they're feeling. So, their friendship's like it's not 100% friendship because they can't do that extra 5%. With us, they can talk to us about anything. So we've got that 100% friendship group now. It's just incredible. And now we're seeing that, obviously, restrictions are easing now and things have stopped. We're going to back to the cafe in Bedfordshire, but we're also doing another a golf club in Cambridgeshire, and they've blocked off a room for us. So we're going to different counties now, which is great. It's allowing men from different ways of life to come and talk to each other. From a recent gentleman who's joined only last week, he expects it to be a really serious group, really quite depressing, but it's not. It really isn't, because you get comfortable, you talk about how you're feeling, but then we have a bit of a banter, we have a laugh. We know that sometimes laughter is the best medicine. So we can talk about football and TV and films, and it's just a pleasure to be around their company.
I'm wondering, I know this is on the spot producing, and obviously, feel free to discuss this more at length on it off air and say no way. But I love the idea of one time if we sort of were to do a program from one of your meetings.
Just thinking the same thing.
Wow. Absolutely, yeah.
I was just sitting. I was thinking, you beat me. It's so weird, isn't it? I was thinking that would be a great thing. The other thing, Luke, is this: you go to the doctor, right? Now, I'm not being rude about the NHS or doctors. I am not. I understand the pressure they're under. I live in the real world, okay? But if you go to the doctor, what's he going to give you? 6 minutes, if you're really lucky. 10 minutes tops. That's what you're going to get. And what's he going to say? May I recommend these pills? So you probably be put on some sort of antidepressant.
I see what you mean. Do you know what I was going to say to you, Russ? I didn't realize you were that ill if a doctor only gave you 6 minutes. Crumbs.
It's a very old gag. I'm not doing it. But thanks for completely buggering up what I was going to say. Twat. So, Phil Dave, never knowingly undersold. What I was going to say is you got maybe 6 to 10 minutes, 10 minutes tops, probably less, and you're going to be put on probably medication, pharmaceuticals. Yeah. They don't have the time. I get that. And they've got to do something. You're giving the people who come to your group, and I like to think that's why we have long form on MRS and WRS. You're giving the people the time. You're not saying, well, Mr. Jones, thank you very, very much. Goodbye. They've got as long as it takes. And that's great.
We're 2 hours. We literally are 2 hours. Thank you, Linda. I've just seen that message. We're very nice to hear. Thank you.
And I might suggest as well, I have never heard my mother use language like that in that way before. Luke, you are an amazing guy. Absolutely, I'd expect her to say that. Quite right. But then she goes on to say, respect, sir. Never heard her say that before. But there you go.
She's getting down with the kids, your mum.
She really is, clearly.
She's with the homies. She's with the homies. She's cruising.
If she allows me to walk my sheep down the road, I'll be glad to have a beer, sir. That's what I can do.
So you're doing a fantastic thing, and it's out of total tragedy with your mum and your sister, horrible, some cancer. You've turned it something really, really positive. So for that alone, for yourself, bravo.
Thank you very much.
It's just great. It's just great. It just shows, though, doesn't it, what is possible if you put your mind to it. It takes effort. It's no good just standing on the steps of I have a real thing about this, Luke, and you're a shining example of this. You know, people who criticize all the time, it was all summed up with the guy standing on the steps of Carnegie Hall in New York, and I'm better than this guy they're all paying to see. I'm better, I could do this. And the guy just goes, yeah, but you're on the steps and he's playing on the stage. And that's the difference, because he's gone and done it. No good moaning and bitching about it. You've got to do it. And you've gone and done it, which is fantastic. That's the thing.
But also, I suggest it goes one step further, actually, Luke. You know, I think, because I think it takes a lot of effort for someone to help themselves. You know, some of the people we speak to, they are without doubt inspirational, just based on what they've done for their own well-being. But the fact that you've got that one step further, and your experiences, not only have you sort of, I'll say, come through it, I suppose one never really properly gets over something like that. But what I mean is that you have come through the other side as best as you can. And now you are helping others. And that's what's amazing.
Yeah.
That's very kind.
It's a beautiful thing. And we'd all be much better off. And I mean this goes back to this bullying and everything else we've been talking about since we kicked off the show at 11. If there were more people like you actually trying to do something positive and something decent, we'd all be a lot more relaxed. We'd all be a lot happier. Our mental state would be better, as opposed to this huge waves of anger and everything else. You know.
Well, I agree, and because I don't understand like racism or ageism. I don't understand it. You know, for me, we're all one person. And from my groups as well, you know, our youngest gentleman's 19, our eldest is 84. You know,
wow,
and it's amazing. You know, it's just incredible, and we're getting people from different backgrounds, different religions. You know, there's somebody's a vegan, somebody's a meat eater. You know, but we've got that one common goal, and that's to improve our mental health. It's just that, honestly, that plain and simple. It's just incredible. You know, and you're saying about 6 minutes in a GP. We're on our Wednesday call is 2 hours, so we're 6 till 8. And the reason why I do it that late as well, so 95% of the men out there may be working 9 till 5, so it gives them a chance not to come after work rather than maybe having a day off work, which could go against their own mental health. It shouldn't be like that. So that's why we do it. And again, when we have the cafe meetings, it's 6 till 8, 6 till 9 in some cases. It just depends how many people will get there. It's just
well, Jules,
I'm there for them.
Jules is saying, well done, Luke. So important to be kind and help others without wanting anything in return. I always think if you expect praise or you expect thanks or you're always going to be disappointed.
Tell me about it. That's what working on this show does to me. I'm telling you.
Well, I've seen your contribution. You think I'm going to thank you for what you do? Forget it, mate. Not going to happen. Right. This book, which I love. Yeah. I love it. Now, are we able to...
Hey,
Philip. Well, no, we can't do that. Right? Can you talk? No, keep it up. It's great.
So I'll keep it up. There we go.
That would be lovely. The Mental Health Moles, by Luke Newman. Absolutely love it. What was the inspiration?
It's just randomness.
You got trouble with your lawn?
Yeah, I was going to say, I went to the garden the other day, and you should have seen the mountains out there.
I've got AstroTurf, so I don't have that problem.
Have you really got AstroTurf?
Yeah, one of my I've got twin boys who are 10, and one of them's got bad hay fever, so we've just got Astro in them. So
hang on, I know it's got nothing to do with mental health.
That's all right.
How do you keep it clean? What do you do?
We have somebody come around once a year to clean it.
He has a turf accountant.
Oh, boom!
I thank you.
So hang on, but you don't have the reason I'm asking, because we've talked about this and we thought, AstroTurf would be good, but then we've got dogs,
Yeah.
So that's not going to work.
We've got 2.
Oh, you got dogs?
Yeah.
So do you? I'm sorry, I'm just curious because I'm not.
Okay.
Do you spray? Do you hose it?
Yeah, I hose it. You can hose it down when they do their business. Obviously, clean them up.
Okay.
But and then it gets professionally cleaned once a year.
Brilliant! I didn't even know you could get it professionally clean. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Right, if you could you show us some of the book? Because I just when you said it was a PDF,
I thought this some of the turf.
So anyway, look at that. So that's a great talking about grief. So this is called Bat Mole. So it's all about Bat Mole. That he's in the dark ages really, and he doesn't talk about his grief, and it's all talking about the importance of talking about how you're feeling, especially if you've lost loved ones like I did.
Can you read some of the? You got them.
I can do that. Yeah, but okay.
You wrote this, so you wrote
I did.
this?
Yeah, I did indeed. For my background, I've got PR, marketing, social media skills. And that's from the last 15 years. And I accidentally designed, well, not accidentally, I designed these 2 little cartoon molds because I've got a fascination with the Mr. Men books. Always have done since I was a kid.
Oh, Roger Hargreaves, how marvellous.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
My big
Hang on, aren't Mr. Men,
I
think Mr. Men are celebrating an anniversary this week.
50 years.
Yeah.
Well, my big kids, we had, who are now totally grown up, obviously not the twins. We grew up with the Mr. Men. I loved them. I loved reading them. I never got bored. I just absolutely loved the Mr. Men. They were terrific.
Exactly. I used to have them read to me by my dad when I was younger, and I was able to read them to my twin boys when they were younger as well.
It's adorable.
So, and what I decided to do is, because I'd like to try and put positive posts on the Fermented Talk social media pages every day, just to get some, comfort into those men. I designed these 2 little molds, and every single Monday I would put a little storyboard out there about different kind of mental health illness and how you can do to improve it. And after about 20 weeks, I realised, hang on a minute, I've got enough there to maybe start a book. So that's what I did. I designed a few more, redesigned the molds slightly, designed some more storyboards, and made it into a book. So I've got one called, this is boxing, believe it or not, and it says, I'm going to do it like that. Having a mental health illness is like boxing. We are fighting a long, hard battle. It's about being hit, but keep fighting back. Being knocked down, but getting up time and time again. In it for the whole fight, the whole 12 rounds. Boxing is an excellent form of stress relief. It builds self-confidence, and it can help you manage anger and overcome it.
It's terrific, isn't it? Absolutely.
So I've just done, it's 52 storyboards in different mental health.
You know why I was so knocked out? We get sent loads and loads of books. And they go from being like really good to not so great. The kids once said this, I said, what do you think of this book? And the twins said, well, yeah, why don't you just go onto Wikipedia, cut and paste and say, oh, I've written a book. I mean, that's not writing a book. That's just being blooming lazy and pretending you're an expert. Your approach is completely novel. That's what I liked about it. It's so simple. And like the best ideas in life, they're so bloody simple. You think, why didn't I think of that? Because somebody else did, because they're smart. That's what I love about it. You're taking really, really complicated issues and breaking them down into a storyboard of four squares. It's fantastic.
Yes, exactly. And what's been really amazing for me, I've got so many people to thank for it, because I've self-published it. Going down the publishing, it cost me far too much money. And one thing I've stressed out is every single penny goes back to Fermented Talk, so I don't know any penny from it. And what I did a crowdfunding campaign to raise £300, and that will get me 100 copies printed. And I did that in 18 hours.
Get out.
So I did 18 hours. I said people would actually get a signed copy of my book. So if they donated £10, they get a signed copy of my book, and that's it. But what's been amazing from that feedback is that, because I was expecting it to be liked by adults, and what I've been getting from a couple of people is they've left it down on a coffee table after they've read it, and their child's picked it up. The child's read through the book.
Because it's very appealing. That's why you can take any level, can't you? It's a very visually appealing.
Yeah. So the child's read through the book and recognised something that they might be feeling at that time, and then it's allowed them to have a conversation with their mum or their dad, and said, "Mum or Dad, I feel like this sometimes," and it gets them to have a conversation. If we start talking about mental health at grassroots, it's a really good start for them growing up.
It's amazing how it's an enabler. It's a door opener. Because you just want something to be able to start that conversation. Yeah,
absolutely.
And it's so important. The younger you can do it without going all Californian and they psychoanalyze way too much, as many Americans do. But being able to have conversation about real things. I'm being bullied at school, or I feel nervous, or I don't feel good. All those things. Have you got pick another one at random? Because
pick another one at random. Let's go for this one, shall we? Okay, TV and films.
Oh, you're talking our language.
Yeah.
Yeah, talking our language in 10 minutes, we're going to have the expert on.
I will stress that I actually designed everything with it. So like the little TVs you see there as well, I designed everything in
This is all your artwork.
Yeah, this is
your
everything
illustration.
mine.
Bloody
The illustrations, everything. Yeah.
Can I also say, and I'm sorry, just coming out of many years of many years of advertising, the typeface. I know this is really pernickety. The typeface you've chosen is just great.
Thank you.
I know other people will say, "What the hell are you talking about?" It's just so visually appealing. That's all. I'll leave it.
So TV and films. Sometimes we have to remember that television shows and movies aren't real. They can show characters who have a mental illness as being dangerous. Films and programs show those people as dangerous and angry, sometimes turning to violence. This simply isn't true. It is a very exaggerating, high unlikely portrayal of real life.
Blimey O'Reilly. Phil, am I on my own? I was just knocked out when Luke sent me the PDF, whenever it was, and I was like, "Oh, this is just great! Just love it."
Not so. No, because it's what you're doing, and this is kind of proven the fact that it is accessible, as we said before, to people of all ages. It's not a subject that is obviously a children's book, but it is basic enough that it could be aimed at children. And yet it's got an appeal about it that is so easy to comprehend. I'm not being funny, but something as innocent as a cartoon mole could appeal to people of all ages. Sure. But it's actually taken a very serious subject and almost subliminally telling people something that's going to make them feel better. I just think it's fantastic. Why are you not receive like an MBE or something for crying out loud?
I'll tell you what Phil, you're right. But Luke, what is really puzzling? Well, first of all, what is so clever is, we deal with Phil and I, 3 times a week, and all the other shows, we're dealing with really complicated issues that go to the very heart of who we are, what we are, how we live our lives, all about mental health and well-being, obviously. This is complicated stuff. That's why we don't do a 3-minute soundbite, because it's just bullshit. You can't explain it properly. But that's number one. But number two, this book should be huge. I mean, it really should be huge, because you've drilled down and in 4 panels explain something which is very complicated. Now, normally people would devote chapters to that. Chapters in a book, an average paperback is 80,000 words, right? You've put it into 4 cartoon panels, which, to be able to distill it down to the very, very core of it, is an art form in itself. It's hard to do.
And I've only released it really in the last 2 or 3 months, so I've sold
How's it doing?
Well, the thing is, because I'm only doing it really from the social media channels. I'm actually doing my first craft fair tomorrow locally, so I'm taking it along. But what's really good about that is not only does it sell the book, but it also publicises for Men to Talk group. The fact that it now allows men that aren't on social media or internet really, who might come along and go, "Oh, I didn't know about this." So that's great. It's doing all right. I've sold 120 copies, which is not amazing, but it makes £3 a book to back into Men to Talk. So every single penny that goes sold helps another man. It's just amazing. And it's not just available on print; it's on Kindle as well. So we've got Kindle sales coming through. It's just it came about as a bit of a hobby.
Is it up? Hobby.
But I know.
Hey, hobby. Right. Yeah. Sebastian Vettel. Why did you start? Well, I started driving as a hobby. Yeah. Oh, so you're the best in the world. Oh, kind of. Here's the thing. Is it on Amazon or what? We've got to go through
Amazon Kindle. Yeah, it's on Kindle.
It is on Amazon and Kindle. Okay, so we could link it. We can link it up. All right. Well, I'm just trying to think how to help, because I just think it's smashing.
Thank you.
I just think
it's not expensive either. It's only £4.99 on Kindle as well, so it's not
only
expensive.
£27,000.
Yeah, I should put it on there.
But you get his signature for that. You get it personalised. To Phil with love, Lou. That's how much was it? I'm sorry, take the piss. How much was it? £3, £4? What did you say?
It's £4.99 on Kindle, and £5.99 in print.
So that's a 5. Yeah. Oh, okay, it's great. It's great. Phil, you're deep in contemplation there, and I'm wondering what's going through the mighty Dave brain.
I don't think you do want to wonder what's going through the mighty Dave brain, because I just think I'm actually agitated that someone like your good self, Luke, you've managed to take a subject that so many people are scared to tackle, scared to do anything about, and our esteemed leaders can't do very much about for some reason. They never seem to get it right. But just I don't know, you just seem to have hit the nail on the head with everything you've touched, and I don't understand it. I said, I don't understand why, if someone who is an unpaid individual could come up with these kind of wonderful sort of I'm trying to think of the word, avenues, for want of a better term, right? So wonderful avenues for people to be able to pursue. So if it's your groups, or whether it is the book, whatever it may be, you just get it, right? And that's what is going through my mind. I just think I don't understand why more people who are actually sort of in a position where they help the masses don't get it in the way that you have. And I'm in awe. I'm going
to jump in. Why? All right. The thing about life is, if you have an idea and you have a goal, is to pursue it, and to not be derailed, and don't be put off by other people. Now, I've made terrible mistakes in the past, and people said you shouldn't do that. I should have listened. All right, that's all right. Learned my lesson. But what I'm talking about is, you've got an ambition. I don't mean you're ambitious, but you have an ambition to do something. You're not. Luke isn't having to. I'm talking as though you're not there, Luke. Forgive me. You don't have to deal with committees. You don't have advisors.
That's true.
All these people saying, well, if you say that, you're going to lose that vote. And if we do this, that group will be all that crap, right, which goes with it. You're like what we do here. You're a one-man band. This is what we're doing. This is where we're going. And you find that people react to that because it's undiluted. And you're not trying to please everybody. You're setting out your vision, which happens to be resonating hugely. That's how he's managed to do it. He hasn't had to ask umpteen people and get their sign off and have focus groups. He's just said, this is what I'm doing. This is where I'm going. Bang. And he's done it. And he's got the skill to follow it up. That's how it's achievable. It's rare.
This isn't going to stop here as well. For me, it's now a community interest company. So it's not a charity, but it's a community interest company. So it will be looking for funding out there, which will allow me to take this as a full-time career, to go and take it to different cafes in different counties nearby me, so it attracts more people. What's been really amazing from Zoom is that it's been attracting men from up and down the country, but also I've had a couple of guys in from America, one's from Miami, one's from Wisconsin. It's just been amazing, because to get their aspect of their own mental health journey from a different country, it's just amazing. And it shows the commitment to somebody. If you want to be open and talk about how you're feeling, it can be that easy if you allow yourself. It's a huge first step, but once you take that first step, it's a great journey to take.
That's extraordinary stuff. I'm just wondering if we can. I'm going to try and message. I'm going to message you afterwards, and it may not be today. So I'm a bit tied up, but remind me, nudge me, because I want to see if I can help. We can publicize it, ally it to what we're doing. Whatever. It would be nice. It's something that deserves attention. In a very crowded, noisy marketplace, this is something which is, I believe, exceptional. It's kind of groundbreaking, and it deserves proper attention. It shouldn't be overlooked by, Love Island or whatever. Some crap diet book by someone who's had a gastric band. Look how much weight I've lost by my fabulous diet. No, you haven't. You liar. You've had a gastric band fitted. Shut up. If people want to know more about you, Luke, and we're going to get you back. I mean, we should have you as a regular. How do we find you? How do we know more about you?
I've got a website of fermentotalk.co.uk. Well, on every social media channel you can go in: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. And there's also links on all those social media channels and the website to the Mental Health Moles book, where you can buy online or write Amazon Kindle as well. How
would you feel, which Phil vocalized, and I was thinking, if we... No. More importantly, how would your group feel?
I was about to say the same thing. Yeah, one thing I do, because I think it'd be an amazing idea, but again, I would have to speak to the
no,
men
no,
on the
it's their
group.
choice.
No, say the reason why a lot of men, one thing I probably really should state as well is that a lot of the men go on there. I state to them that I don't put their names on social media or website. I don't put them. I don't take pictures or anything. So a lot of it, is confidential. So you don't see any of them. So again, I'll speak to the gentlemen and see if they would be interested. And some of them probably won't, which means they might have to miss a week. Or I
tell you what I think would be better if it's okay, because I would hate for anyone to miss a week, because you never know what kind of knock-on effect that would have to them. So what I'd suggest we do is, maybe if it's possible, that between us we collaborate a special group, as it were, who actually do join us all on a program. And I feel that would probably be better, because then that way those who need the group anonymously wouldn't miss out, if that's okay.
So we could have up to 10 people, can't we, on the system?
Yes, we can have up to 10
so
people.
So there's the three of us.
So there's room for another 7.
Another 7.
Yep,
they can be anonymous, of course. They can be
absolutely.
Anyway, these are details that our audience don't need to know. Luke, thank you very, very, very much.
You're more welcome. Thank you for having me again.
Thank you so much.
Good luck. I'll be in touch.
Farewell. Bye-bye.
What a lovely man. I want to read some of these things before we get on to the blonde one. Linda Davis.
You don't mind, do you?
Oh, there she is. She's sitting on the couch. She's getting ready for another TV show. She's sitting down on the couch this time.
The question is, of course, who lives in a house like this?
Let's look at the clues. There's a BAFTA award. I just want to read this one out, then we'll do a proper introduction, of course. It's from Jules Silverman. It says, Russ and Phil, please let your female listeners know I've started a group locally called the Pretty Woman Club. Hello. Suddenly got my attention. I think I may have misunderstood this. It's for female bugger. It's for female mental health. I was excited there for a minute, Jules. A ladies' club started after COVID-19 to help ladies' mental health. Great stuff. The intention is to meet for walks that end with a drink or 2, or 7 in your case. If you want to make new friends or need someone to talk to, come join us for a walk, for the drinks, or both. And then she's posted up the details. Sounds jolly good.
Now, Chantal, far be it from me to produce live on air, but alas, once in a while we do need to do this.
BAFTA, taking your life in your hands, but go ahead.
Do you have earphones or headphones that you can hear us on? Because unfortunately, we're getting a little bit of feedback, so that was all.
Well, let me think. I will go and see if my...
You'll go and see, right?
She makes that sound very alluring. Anybody else will, wait and see. But no, she makes it sound like alluring. It sounded pretty sexy, to be honest with you. I don't mind saying. Maybe it's just the thought of the Pretty Woman Club, which I've completely misunderstood, Jules. I think there's another business.
Yeah, you've been left almost disappointed, I can tell.
Well, I thought...
Here comes Muttley.
Every time I see Julia Roberts, I must post that letter. Anyway, Ramsey says, Jules, my wife lives in Warlingham. I'll let her know.
Your wife lives in Warlingham, or don't you live with her, Ramsey?
It's not about business. Shut up. We don't know what's going on.
Well, just
no, we don't know. Don't ask. This is good because I mentioned Sebastian Vettel, so anything to get a Formula One thing. Ramsey says, I met Sebastian Vettel in a hotel in Tokyo after the 2008 Japanese Grand Prix. It was his first season in F1. He was being touted as the next hot driver. I recognized him in the reception. We got chatting. He was a lovely, down-to-earth young man, and I've not been surprised to see him spend 3 hours tidying up after the British GP. Grand Prix, or sticking one to the right-wing government in Hungary. Interesting guy, Seb Vettel. I like him a lot. Sorry, yeah. Well, Jules, you built my hopes up, thinking there was some group of hotties that financial arrangements can be come with, and the whole thing just turns out to be a sort of mental health help group.
Chantel's back.
Yay!
Hello, I think I'm back.
No,
you
you're
are
back.
Hello.
Back. You're definitely there.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, thank you.
Yes.
It's like Two Ways family favourites. Can you hear me? Yes, BFPO.
I'm getting a message from the other side.
It's Kanesham. Keynsham. Kanesham. With my infrapools method. All right. How are you, Chantel?
I'm very good. I'm in Sussex. I'm overlooking Chichester Harbour.
Have you done something wrong?
No, not at all. It's beautiful.
Okay.
It's a great county. You are wicked, the pair of you. It's very beautiful. I'm not here as the representative of the Tourist Association for West Sussex, but I can heartily recommend it. It's very, very beautiful. I'm down here overlooking Chichester Harbour, in a lovely home that just goes to the edge of the water. And it's a beautiful day. The sun is coming out. Couldn't be nicer.
Excellent.
I'm beginning to think Chantal
Enjoying a
doesn't
drop
have
of
a home.
port.
Very good. I'm beginning to suspect Chantal doesn't actually have a home because she's either in Dubai, she's in New York, she's in Colorado, she's in Wales, she's somewhere in West Sussex. This is fantastic. You're sofa surfing. Be honest, that's what you're doing.
I'm not quite sofa surfing. It's quite similar to sofa surfing. I've just got a lot of friends who live in various places, and I'm catching beds during the summer months.
How bloody marvellous. I think it's absolutely lovely. It's a great thing to do. And it doesn't involve a boat and you feeling sick.
No, I'm taking to the high seas again tomorrow.
Oh, so, of course.
is this wise? Is this
I don't
wise?
know. I'm going on a ferry tomorrow. I'm going from New Haven to Dieppe, and then I'm jumping on a train to go to Le Havre. So I will tell you what the French train system is like next Friday and the French ferry system. See if it's all working and see if it all feels safe. I don't know, but I shall be wearing a mask and we'll see what happens.
Be full of French people now.
It will be full of
France. So we don't care if it works. It's just full of French people, so we don't want to go there. That's for us.
I know. I still think they don't like us very much. But anyway,
they hate us. They're 23 miles away and they absolutely loathe us. They hate us. They've never forgiven us for Napoleon.
No, I lived in France when I was a student. I studied French, and so I lived in France for a year. And my French accent used to be pretty good. And they knew that I wasn't French, but they thought I was either Belgian or French-speaking Swiss. Actually, when they realised that I was British, their attitude changed completely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I've always said whenever I go to, I mean, even though that my, as I established earlier on, my ability to speak other languages is somewhat poor, but I would sort of say that the only two other languages I remotely understand and vaguely speak would be French and what's called Ivrit, which is modern Hebrew. But it's so basic, it's ridiculous. You know, really, I can't have a conversation with anyone in either language. But when I go to these countries, I make an attempt to try and speak the local lingo because I think it's polite.
Yeah.
But of course, what you don't bank on is that as soon as you try and say something in French, they can tell instantly and, of course, arrogantly reply in English fluently as if to say, poor you.
They're replying idiomatically perfect English and you feel like this big and you just feel like an idiot for making an effort. Anyway, there we are. But that's not why you're here.
I digress.
No, not why I'm here.
No, but nonetheless, interesting. All right, you'll be the judge of that, I suppose. Now, what has come under your professional eye?
Well, I've been to the cinema, and it was fantastic. I threatened last week that I would get back to the cinema this week, and indeed, I made my way down to the cinema Cineworld in Wandsworth, the lovely Cineworld multiplex in Wandsworth, which was great, and it felt very safe. People were wearing masks, but not everybody.
They were.
It wasn't very busy. It was the first week of the new Matt Damon movie, which has been held over for some time. It should have come out in 2020. They've now just released it. First appeared at Cannes at the film festival just a few weeks ago. And it's not Jason Bourne as you know him. It's not a Jason Bourne film, although it sort of starts out and you think it's going to be vengeful father trying to get his daughter out of prison, who is in a French jail in Marseille for having murdered her female lover, her female partner. And you think, oh, I can see where this is going. It's got a bit of Liam Neeson about it. It's got a bit of Jason Bourne about it. Actually, it's not like that at all. It's rather interesting. You sort of get two movies in one. The way that he plays the character, I think, rather reduces who Matt Damon is as an actor, because the character of the father is a redneck. He's an oil worker from Oklahoma. He's very locked down. He's got a great big beard, and he speaks very slowly. He's not massively articulate. He's not supposed to be a sort of super brain guy. But the way that the character is controlled means, I think, that you don't get the range of Matt Damon, the actor, because what you get is somebody very sort of quiet, very solid in frame. You never see Matt's face because he's covered in this giant beard. It reminds me a bit of when Leonardo DiCaprio 3 or 4 years ago did a film called The Revenant. And he spent 3/4 of the film in a bear's suit.
Yep.
And didn't really speak. And you just thought, why did they bother using Leonardo DiCaprio? So it was a little bit bizarre.
Because Phil was available. And that's the thing. They would have saved themselves a fortune.
I was going to say, I would have been
25 quid and a sandwich. Here's your man.
Anyway, he, without giving the whole game away, he goes off to Marseille. He teams up with a wonderful French actress who, for those of you who've been watching Call My Agent, you will know the actress Camille Cotin, who is an absolutely brilliant French actress who is the lead in Call My Agent. And she has now, through Call My Agent, suddenly popped up in Hollywood. So it's her first big Hollywood role, and she is absolutely brilliant. She has a little 8-year-old daughter who becomes very close to Matt Damon. So we see him being a father figure for the second time, having got it pretty wrong the first time round. We meet the daughter who is in a jail in Marseille. And then there is a question of trying to get her out of jail and finding out actually whether she was guilty or not. And I'm certainly not going to give that bit of the story away. Interestingly, it's made there was a little bit of controversy surrounding it because there was a young American girl who was sent to jail for a ghastly murder in Italy about, God, it must be 10 years ago, called Amanda Knox.
Oh, the Amanda Knox, yes.
And in fact, she came out saying, this is a rip-off of my story and this is terrible and it's nothing to do
Unlike
with
her
it.
to court publicity, isn't it?
Ah, well, that's exactly my point.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realise that there was any allusion between her story and the story in the film Stillwater. And I thought, why has she said this? Because actually they're not the same story. It didn't even occur to me that this might be based on the Amanda Knox story.
And so you could almost guarantee that it didn't occur to many other cinema goers who would have seen it either.
I think you're absolutely right. I think it was a cheap shot. So forget the Amanda Knox story. It hasn't really got anything to do with that other than an American girl gets involved in a horrible murder overseas in her student years. That's simply the story.
Is it called Stillwater?
Stillwater, which is
because Ramsey has said, interesting, this is a coincidence. I went to the cinema last week and saw Stillwater, not realizing the story was loosely based on the murder of Meredith Kircher, who went to school in Selsdon, just down the road.
No.
I thought it, yes, it's weird or what? 6 degrees of separation. I thought it was excellent. My wife thought it was slow, but she likes Michael Bay films. Ramsey, so do I. I like Michael Bay films. They're great. More explosions and shooting ups, the better. That's what I say.
Well, that's the one thing I would say. That's a very good opinion because it is definitely too long. It's at least 20 minutes too long.
Ugh.
And I love Matt Damon. I can watch Matt Damon forever because I think he's a very understated American actor, and I think he's very, very good. But actually, the script is too long. It should have been conflated, and it would have been better for it. But it's worth going to see. It's just lovely to be back in the cinema. If you're not too worried about being out and about and up close and personal with people, then actually I think cinemas are safe because there are so few people going. But it was so lovely to be back inside a cinema again.
But the other thing is that I'm thinking if a film is too long, I don't know about you, I start resenting it after a while if it goes on too long. No, I do. I start thinking to myself, why? For goodness sake, I could have enjoyed myself if it was 20, 30 minutes less. Why are you putting me through this? What on earth's the point?
It's not only that, Phil. The thing that angers me about movies that are too long, having been a producer for many years, is I suddenly think, well, that's £3 million worth of material that's just hit the floor because they haven't used all of those scenes that were shot. And that's shocking. I mean, that is a real waste of money. So it hasn't been well produced in that a person right at the top, the executive producer, hasn't said, actually, you don't need to shoot that many scenes because they're going to end up on the cutting room floor. So that would be my criticism of this film. But it's not a bad story. Matt Damon is great. Camille Cotin is fabulous. And it's just nice to be out and about again. So I would recommend going to see it if you're a Matt Damon fan.
I wasn't expecting a message because he's feeling far from well. We've been chatting. Sam Monroe, get well soon. We'll leave it at that. We'll go into further details.
You say that though. He's just put, I'm now cutting my film by 25 pages just for Phil. Thank you, Sen. I'll come and watch it now.
That's it, because it's only 7 minutes long. Right. Let me getting back to the cinema.
Yeah.
For a sec. Did you get much more out of the experience than watching something at home?
Yes. I think the cinema is very different to watching stuff at home. You don't get distracted in the same way. I think at home I've normally got the ironing board out, or they've got something on the cooker, or somebody phones, or there are too many distractions at home.
See, I'm the opposite.
Really?
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I put on my Bluetooth headset. I've got Dolby stereo sound, and I haven't got any idiot eating pick and mix next to me and chalking and looking at their phone. Do you think it's going to survive?
It's a really good question. I think it will, because there is something markedly different about the cinema experience. Just seeing something that's 40 feet wide, that idea of enormity in your visual range, I think is exceptional and isn't matched by a 40-inch screen at home.
I just wonder, Shantas, though, what are they going to do to lure us back? It's a serious thing. This is your industry. You're at the cream of the crop as far as it goes. You know it inside out. And people get very used. It's like watching a program or listeners. People are inherently lazy.
Yeah.
They get very used to watching things. They've got a sound bar. They've got whacking great screen. The picture quality is marvelous. So it's, I just wonder what the cinemas are going to do to get us back in.
Well, I think cinemas themselves will offer more entertainment. I think they'll probably become part of entertainment complexes where you might see live esports in one theatre. You might see something else in another cinema, all coming together under one big entertainment complex. Because rather like shopping centres, they're going to try and keep driving the whole entertainment value up. So I think that's one thing. I think we will find limited types of films. We will have blockbusters and we will have small independent movies. And I think the stuff in the middle will get lost. The stuff that you can easily watch at home will get lost. So the art house films will still want to go into a big cinema experience. And the Michael Bay movies and the Disney movies will also want that big experience. The stuff in between, I think, will disappear.
You say the Disney movies, but I'm not sure now, because since Disney Plus have discovered that they can charge premium access for their films, I wonder whether or not they're just going to ride off the back of that. Because if they can charge, I don't know how stupid price it is, something like 20 quid a film or something.
It was $19, I think.
Yeah, so it's something stupid like £20 a film to watch it in the comfort of your own home. I think they'll do that because they'll make more money from it. So they don't need to.
Don't tell Scarlett Johansson that. That could cause a problem.
Cultural reference. I see what you did there. Well done, Chantal. What else have you discovered on your travels?
Okay, so I try not to offer up sort of duff programs. And if you had seen the first episode of Professor T on ITV, you might have been a bit disappointed. I personally. It was okay. And I thought, is this going to be another great Death in Paradise lasting 9 series with a sort of weird mixture of something slightly comedic and a cop show? Morse meets Death in Paradise. And they haven't quite hit the sweet spot yet, but the second episode is much better than the first. So very briefly, it is a professor of criminology who is OCD himself. So you know right from the get-go that the comedian Ben Miller, who in fact was in Death in Paradise in the very early days, you know that he's a comedy actor, so that you know that you're going to get something slightly comedic about it. And then in a rather sort of, for those that will remember Leonard Rossiter and the sitcom that he used to do in the 1970s,
Rising Damp?
Rising Damp. No, not Rising Damp. The one on the BBC where he used to think
Reginald Perrin.
Reginald Perrin.
Oh, Rise and Fall of Reginald Perrin.
So when he thought of his mother-in-law, a picture of a hippopotamus always appeared on the screen. So Professor T has this same device that when he is experiencing some sort of something he doesn't like, you see this visual representation of sort of lunacy, of some sort of madcap idea that's going on in his head that's played out on screen, just like the hippopotamus would have been in the Leonard Rossiter film, TV series. So the first program doesn't quite get there. You just think this is a very odd juxtaposition of Cambridge University, slightly OCD professor, young criminologist, police woman who goes back to him to get him to solve crimes, and Frances de la Tour, who plays the mother of the mad professor.
Yeah. It's formulaic, isn't it?
It's formulaic, and it doesn't hit its mark in Ep 1. By the time it gets to episode 2, it gets better. The director's slightly got more into the feel of it. Yep. And there are some very good dramatic performances. And there is a nice crime story at the heart of it.
I'm never comfy when they mix crime and comedy. I discovered by chance Professor T, and thought, oh, this might be right up my street. And it was okay. I mean, it wasn't bad. It was okay. It looked good. The stories were okay. But like there was another series which is charming. If you just want to totally chill, there's Shakespeare and Hathaway, which is another, which is nice. It's set in Stratford-upon-Avon. He's an ex-policeman, and they're detectives basically. They're private detectives.
Private detectives, yeah.
And so you've got this weird kind of British thing where people are dying because they're being murdered. They're not always murdered there's no nice way to be murdered, but they're murdered. You know, someone's committed the ultimate crime. And then you've got kind of light-hearted banter. And I'm thinking, no.
It's a bit odd. And in fact, in episode 1, there's a rather brutal rape at the beginning. And then you see Professor T thinking about, I think something sparks off an idea in his head about adultery or infidelity. And then suddenly you cut to Can Girls. And you think, hang on a second, this really isn't sitting very happily with me.
No.
But it becomes less obtuse further into the series. So that just gives you a bit of a setup so that you know what you're going to get, and it doesn't feel as peculiar as it did to me when I watched the first episode. But I'm going to persevere with it. Ben Miller's great. Frances de la Tour is
she's fab. Isn't she fab? She doesn't have huge scenes, but when she does, it just explodes, doesn't it? Yeah. Now, Linda Davis.
I'm slightly surprised, though. Sorry, RK, that you say that you don't like that mixture of comedy and crime, because you're the one who's quite rightly raving about Death in Paradise. I think it's fantastic.
Well, I don't find it. Yes, but it is. But somehow, and Chantal can explain, they get that special ingredient that it works. You don't realize it, but when it doesn't work, you feel it. I can't explain. Yeah, I love it.
Well, I'd suggest that with something like Death in Paradise, it's the backdrop that helps, because one would never associate. I mean, that's the absolute irony of the program, isn't it? One would never associate murder with, quote, paradise. So.
But also, Phil, very empathic characters in Death in Paradise. You really like them all. Whereas I struggled a bit with Ben Miller and the OCD.
No, you don't like the Ben Miller. I mean, you don't dislike him, but you don't feel warmth towards him.
Correct.
I think that's the thing. Like, for example, Linda Dave has made a great point. Father Brown, fabulous. I love those shows. Yeah. They get it spot on. Yeah. Spot on. Marvelous. Yeah.
It's anyway worth trying. Try it out, see what you think. But just I've given you a few caveats in terms of what to expect. If it's not your genre, then simply move on to something else.
But if you do like that genre, I think it's called the Broke Book Mysteries, set in New Zealand.
Yes. Yeah,
very good. I've mentioned it before. I'd recommend those. 90 minutes each, and they're good. They look great, and they're good plots.
So Professor T's on ITV. I think we're up to episode 3 or possibly episode 4 this week. See what you think.
I found it on BritBox, I think.
No,
did I not? I found it on another streaming service there, by chance, not ITV.
Okay.
I don't know where I found it.
You just found it, so you don't know where it was.
I don't know, these things just turn up. I can't remember where the hell I
turn up. Someone drops off at your doorstep, let's be honest. It was abandoned.
Who the hell knows it? Probably knowing me.
Chantal, what else have you discovered?
And I was just going to say, as most people will realise, because, The Secret was out years ago, that this is not the best time of the year for TV companies to be putting stuff out. They know that a lot of people are on holiday, tends to be the time of the year when they bury stuff that they're not massively proud of. So the fact that it's come out sort of late July, early August was a little bit of a sort of...
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You know.
So that's a kind of tacit, we kind of like it, but we're not.
We kind of like it. And ITV have thrown a lot of money at it, so we should try it out.
They?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, that aside, I've got an absolutely new favourite programme, which has been going for 9 years. What have I done? I have no idea what I've been doing for the last 9 years, but clearly...
Having a life. Having
a
proper big, huge career, which we could only dream of. That's what you've been doing.
But actually, what I've missed is a really great programme, which is just absolutely up, I think, our audience's viewers, because it's gentle, it's warm, it's brilliant, it's sort of edge of the seat, it's informative. And it's BBC One, and it's called Fake or Fortune, which is basically...
What?
Well,
this has been around for 9 years?
9 years!
I didn't know.
Never heard of it.
So Yes.
Fiona
This
Bruce,
was recommended to me, oddly enough, Fake or Fortune.
It's completely brilliant. Fiona Bruce, a journalist we've seen on our telly screens for 25 years, who is actually a very good journalist, and a very interesting art historian called Philip Mould, who created the programme. And in each programme, they take one piece of art. It may be a sculpture, but generally it's a piece of art. And they try and find out, they go back through the provenance of the piece that they are given to try and find out whether it's fake or whether it's real. So you get a complete history lesson. It's very forensic in terms of the science that it uses to try and find out about, you know, is this a plaster cast? Is this made from iron? Is it made from bronze? Would the original sculptor have used bronze or aluminium? It's absolutely brilliant. It's a 1 hour show. It's incredibly well put together. It's clearly a BBC staple that I have missed.
It's totally. Really, yeah. It was recommended to me, and somebody significant other was banging on about it, and so I sat down and I was absolutely engrossed. It was the one where they thought, "Is this a real Henry Moore or not?"
That's the one I watched this week.
Oh, how weird! But you know, what you used the word forensic. And I thought, well, how interesting is this going to be? I don't really care if it's a Henry, you know, I'm not a huge Henry Moore fan. And I was absolutely, totally wrapped up in it. I needed to know.
Yeah.
Which is a sign of success, because it's not a subject area I give a damn about. And it was so interesting.
Yeah, massively interesting. And I just think for viewers who want something non-inflammatory, but gentle, but ticks all the boxes in terms of information, education, and entertainment, this is it. Go no further. Go back 9 series and watch them all, because that's what I'm going to do.
She's very. What I liked about her, it's like you see so many shows. Let's be honest, and an agent says, "You've got to take my show you've got to take my client," and they shoehorn some Herbert in, and you think you have no interest. You don't even know what the hell you're talking about. You had the right lunch at the Ivy, and there you are. You got your job. Whereas Fiona Bruce is clearly really caught up as we are. Either that or she's a brilliant actress, but she seems genuinely interested, and that adds another layer to the show.
I mean, I don't think she's a brilliant actress unless I'm missing something. I think she's a great journalist. I think she's genuinely interested to find out whether something is a fake or not. And that infection and that real genuine interest comes across on screen, which is why you and I saw the same episode and went, actually, I want to know what happens. Yeah. It's great. It's really good.
It's a real skill, isn't it, to take something and you could say, well, there's a real Henry Moore. You could immediately dismiss it and you think, I'm just not going to get interested in this because it's not appealing to me on any level. And then suddenly it pulls you in. You think, I mean, that is skill of production, isn't it? It's the skill of the writing. The production was fantastic.
Yeah, really good. Very well put together.
Right. Any quick fires?
Quick fires. Well, similarly to Fake or Fortune, I then also looked at a BBC Two series, which has just started in its second series, called Secrets of the Museum. Clearly things have been difficult to film over lockdown, but what they have had access to at the BBC is the V&A, the Victoria and Albert Museum, and to the curators who put things together for collections. And it's really good. They take 3 or 4 different items that they are preparing for collection. So you get the story of each individual item that they're preparing. So the first episode of this series, series 2, They took one of the Slade guitarists, Jim Lee. They took his red sequined suit and they took it back to restoration so that it would go out on a glam rock exhibition.
How cool is that?
Absolutely brilliant. But at the same time, there was a kimono exhibition. So you learned an enormous amount about how kimonos were created, how they should be put together and how they look and the fabric that's used. It's really good. It's another really nice, informative, light, factual program from the BBC.
I once met, I got to tell you, Jim Lee. You're talking about this. You got this image of him. I thought he was. I met him. I didn't know who he was. We were chatting. He's wearing a 3-piece suit. He looked like an accountant or a solicitor. And we were talking. Oh yeah, he was charming. And I said, "Oh, I don't like Christmas." He says, "I love Christmas." And he said, "Because I wrote, here it is, Merry Christmas, everybody." Every year, $250,000 he gets because he wrote it. Last time we spoke, $250,000 in PRS every year. Boom.
Whoa.
He says that's my pension.
Right, we're all off to go and write a Christmas song.
Good. Okay.
Don't mind us. Anyway, it's fantastic. Chantal, thank you so much. As ever.
Great suggestions, Chantal. Thank you very, very much.
Not at all. Happy weekend.
Have a good week.
Bye. Enjoy France. La Belle France.
Terrific.
Cool. Nice suggestions.
Stuff.
She always finds really good stuff. Thank you to everybody. The comments today. And Elizabeth Green, thanks for joining us from New York City, live from New York. I've thoroughly enjoyed today. Wonderful guest.
Absolutely. Been terrific. Thank you very much indeed to Andre Radmal. Thank you very much to Luke Newman. And of course to Chantal Ricardo. And how could we not possibly thank you as well for all of your comments and your interaction. Busy old day on the comments, so we always appreciate it.
Loved all that. Sorry if we didn't manage to read it out. Apologies. It's nothing personal. It was just a question of time. Normally we try to accommodate everybody.
Well, we try. One way or another, hopefully we shall be back here on Monday at midday. So with a little bit of blooming luck, you'll join us then. But whatever you're up to for the weekend, enjoy.
Have a good one there for a minute. Enjoy. Yes,
very good.
Have fun.
Bye.
Bye-bye.